How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. Hold on, let me get this backlight going. Bless it. Bless it. Because the lighting system in this sun gun is, I tell you what. So, before we get started today, I want you guys to remember to like and subscribe. Make sure you join the membership. For those of you that are in TikTok, you've got the opportunity to, let's get that set up right quick, join the communication of the chat by clicking the invite request, and we'll get you thrown right on in there. You see that on the right side of your screen or at the bottom if you got an iPhone. The rest of you guys that are coming in from YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, we got your comment section right here at the bottom. If you guys were to approve the mic, approve the camera, when you click this link here, it'll throw you into our green room, which gives us the ability to throw you up onto the screen where you'll be able to watch the show in real. Well, you'll be able to talk on the show in real time. We'll be able to see you unless you turn off your camera, hear what you got to say, and inquire on our day-to-day discussions. So also, I would like for you guys, those of you that decide to join the membership, we got discounts on merchandise for This and That memorabilia, alongside a lot of our affiliate stuff that we've got linked up on our affiliate videos. So if you check out our YouTube page, for those of you that are on TikTok, if you look on the bottom right side of the screen there, you see a link to our YouTube page. If you got time, you want to click that link, it'll take you straight on over to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where we have an abundance of videos being released every day that are highlights, throwbacks of all of the greatest moments of the show, as well as insightful information about pretty much everything under the sun. We talk about a variety of things, but we're also trying to work on getting a stream key. So we appreciate it if you guys have the opportunity to hit that follow button so that you can help us get to that. We need at least 10,000 people to get to the stream key. But, you know, I got 100,000 up there because I aim for the stars. And if I can land on the moon, then, hey, so be it. Today, we are supposed to be talking about the C-Corporation developments, why we're going to do it, and what should you be really paying attention to and trying to avoid with that. Now, why am I talking about this? We typically talk about relationships over the weekend, but we also talk about how to get your money up. We also talk about good decision-making choices, and we also try to give you guys lifestyle choice improvement skills. And in order for us to give you improvement skills, we've got to be able to show you that there's another way. We can't just have a situation where, like, we're just telling you, oh, do better with your life, make better choices, blah, 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 blah. We've got to be able to show you that there is a way to make better choices, why you should make those better choices, and then give you the opportunity to make your own decisions on top of that. So I strongly start with showing you what you could be doing versus what you're not doing, and then let you figure out what you're going to do with your life. And then after that, you'll be able to understand that if you are feeling like a failure, you're feeling like a failure because you are a failure, and you are a failure because you're not applying yourself. Because if you had watched this podcast at least one day out of the week, I had some point out of the podcast told you what you should or could be doing to make your situation just a tad bit more beneficial for yourself, so that you don't have to deal with a lot of the unnecessary grief and drawbacks of the everyday life. So let's go ahead and slide into the C-Corporation situation. Now, I know that y'all been watching everything that's been happening on the news with politics and elections and whatnot, and y'all already see that even TurboTax and other such H&R Block tax agencies are even already preemptively telling you guys in advance that there's going to be some modifications for the tax laws for the 2024 year in 2025. So they're already letting you know that the anti-inflation tax laws that are not supposed to go into effect until we have a new Republican president are actually being promoted as if it's already in the works of going into effect before the decision has ever been made. So if that's not foreshadowing, I don't know what is. But what I told you guys when we first started talking about one of the platforms that was going to be implemented, we were talking about how that particular concept would fall heavily on us individuals creating C corporations for ourselves, and if we did it correctly, we would be able to build up a level of generational wealth where we would not be struggling. Now, while the information is widely accessible, a lot of people just don't go out and look for it. And because they don't go out and look for the information, we typically end up in a position where we just don't know that there is another way, that we could be doing things just a tad bit different, just a tad bit better, and function in a more feasible fashion. Now, you understand that with the new tax laws coming up, that there's going to be some flat rates at the top and at the bottom, but you also know that they're going to be doing away with city and state beneficiary taxes. Now, if you're in a C corporation, different tax laws apply to you. I recommend that you try to get yourself a CPA or a tax lawyer that you're probably going to have to put on retainer to help you make really good tax decisions going forward. But up until you can afford those, because those guys aren't cheap. You're talking about $350 an hour. So when you go to talk to them, you're going to be doing a lot more listening after you ask short questions and getting more detailed information, because the more information you get from this person, the better you can function. Now, one of the things that I find to be more effective is to try to do as much footwork as you can on your own, so that when you do go get those specialists, that you've already got a direction, you already have goals and plans, and when you reach out to those specialists and you start asking questions, you have informed questions that require in-depth answers, so that they're not just feeding you a bunch of random crap. They're actually telling you what you legitimately need to accomplish your specific goals, because you've already established specific goals. So what I want to go ahead and start talking about is those specific goals. And that's why I decided to rock it like this, because it makes sense for us to be able to piece together why we're creating C corporations for ourselves, what will we benefit from those C corporations, and then how do we function better in 2025 going forward, since we're going to be in a situation where we're probably going to be relying on C corporation laws that are not going to benefit the individuals. So we're in a capitalist country. C corporations is big business, and big business is capitalism. So if we're going to be really enjoying the new capitalist model that's about to go into effect for 2025, then we need to go ahead and look into that. First and foremost, what you have to understand, and a lot of people probably know this, but in case you didn't know this, I'm going to say it for you and say it again, so that you kind of understand. One of the biggest benefits about this is that when you're establishing yourself a C corporation, not an S corporation, because an S corporation is a sole proprietor. It means that there's only one person working for the company, and that typically falls under individualized taxes. But a C corporation is a corporate entity that is separate from the individual owner. So if I have a C corporation, I have different taxes than the C corporation. Now, the C corporation, it is considered its own entity, which means that C corporation can enter into. I appreciate the likes. By all means, hit as many likes as you can afford. Smash that heart button for like the next hour and a half. By all means, throw some love in there. But the C corporation's its own entity, and because it is its own entity, it can purchase real estate, which is one of the other things that we have come to find out over the last week when I was digging into last Monday. Some of the higher paying jobs that people can't find, 2 or 3 of them that did not require college educations was a loan officer, which is like a mortgage broker, or a loan agent, and real estate investors, real estate agencies, and other such real estate employment. And one of the reasons why is because all of the laws that are beneficial and reusable in your spending and budget making endeavors are all revolving around real estate. So that means that if you slide into big business, real estate, you will slide into a lot of tax breaks and tax deductions and what do they call that? Tax blankets, where the debt that you accrue offsets the profits that you made, so that you're not required to pay taxes because of how much money you spent during the fiscal year. These are the reasons why They say go and grab you C corporations. Now, outside of purchasing property, purchasing and owning property, the C corporations can enter into contracts. Contracts that the C corporation are involved in do not directly impact the individual. So if my C corporation gets into a contract and the contract flops, the C corporation is negatively impacted by that. I am not negatively impacted by that because I am separate from my C corporation. If I do something that I ain't got no business doing, my C corporation is not impacted by that. Well, reputation wise, it might be because if I'm the owner of the company, but functionality wise, it's not going to tie me into it. So I am a separate entity from the business. Now, likewise, that's another thing that I would like to mention. One of the biggest benefits of C corporations, and I'm going to tell you, digging into this, one of the first reasons why I was like, man, I need to get more C corporations because I've already got an LLC and a C corporation. I need to get a couple more C corporations. And one of the other reasons why is because C corporations can be sued and sued separate from the individual. Now, when you think about lawsuits, you think, oh, well, I don't want to get a C corporation to get sued. But think about this. Your C corporation has to be the defendant in the suit in order for the assets to be in jeopardy. So let's say you yourself as the individual fucks around and crashes into a Porsche. The owner of the Porsche can sue you as the individual and take you as the individual for everything that Porsche is worth. But if you don't own shit, the most that they can do is get a judgment against you. Now, if everything that you use is owned by a C corporation, the C corp outside of the car, because if the car belongs to the C corporation, if you crash a car, the C corporation has to pay. But outside of the car, if everything else is owned by the C corporation, they can't sue the C corporation to get reparations from the individual that was involved in the car crash, unless the car crash involved the C corporation's car. So this is one of the reasons why getting a C corporation is good, because if you're separating yourself from your assets, because your assets are owned by your C corporation, then you don't have to worry about having any form of legal action occur where they will be coming after your C corporation for damages. The other thing that's good about a C corporation is being able to invest and lend. And potentially we're going to be talking down the line, setting up stock options and investment opportunities, is the fact that all of that exchanging of money for shares is all able to be done under a different tax bracket that is capped off, as opposed to individuals that have to pay as much as 35-40% taxes, and may even have additional taxes that has to occur off of investments, as well as prize tax and other such. So it's always beneficial if you're able to find ways to write it. Instead of writing in your social security number, you write in your tax identification number for your business, and then your business claims responsibility for the money that occurs in most transactions. Now, you want to still make sure that when you're doing deals, like litigatable deals, buying and selling assets that could potentially turn into a negative situation, you want to make sure that that is done somewhere else under an LLC that is limited to its liability. But we're going to be talking about next up is your holding companies. Your holding company is going to hold your assets, and a personal holding company, PHC, is a closely held C corporation that is considered a PHC specifically because 60% of the gross income from passive income and it that it gets, it does not distribute to its shareholders. So this is a company that makes a shit ton of money, but doesn't pay anybody out. If 60% of the profits that are being made from investments is not being dispersed to the shareholders, then that particular company can impose an extra 20% taxes on the holding company. That is in addition to the foundational 20% that is typically charged to C corporations to operate. And think about this, individuals that are under the new tax bracket, because they're going to be two different tax brackets. One is going to be the 15 percenters, that's everybody under 168,000, and the 30 percenters for everybody over 168,000. But if you think about the fact that C corporations are on a flat rate 20% right now, and that percentage might change in 2025 where it'll be less, you have to understand that the flat rate 20% is a flat rate 20%. Now, if they hit you with another 40%, then you'd be looking at 40% instead of 20%. But that only happens when you have 60% of passive income. And passive income is money that you put into investments and stocks, and the money made money, and now you're reaping rewards off of that money. So you're drawing an income off of your investment. That's pretty much a passive income, which means that your 60% of that money is not being shared amongst your investors. You can avoid that in situations where you have that tax bracket, where when you're picking up real estate and you have a holding cost for the real estate, the debt of the business is more than 40% of your profit margin. They're less likely to tax you the 20% penalty when you're making 40% profit. And you're even if you're reinvesting the money back in where the dividends aren't able to be dispersed because you're increasing the value of the shares without actually paying out on the shares. This is going to be one of those situations where I'd probably have to do a completely separate show talking about REITs, but just talking about the fact that you can actually pick up assets where you do the deal with an LLC, put the ownership of the property into the C-Corp company's assets, have some money going to the C corporation, invested into the C corporation from its shareholders, including the founder or executive shareholder, which is the person who started up the business. You put money into the business to cover the holding costs, to invest in stocks and bonds and stuff, and then have that revenue turn a profit where the profit actually pays off the debts of the business, the mortgages and other such. Then you're taking care of yourself with that. But if you're breaking even while you're doing this with your C corporation, you're in a position where you're not actually drawing back a realized profit off of your C corporation's overhead versus its budget, the overall budget, which means that you're not going to be incurring this 20% additional penalty or the 20% tax rate when you're running 40, 50% going back into the business. You're below the taxable range. Now, that's going to be one of those situations that most people don't really pay attention to. Venture capitalists are going to be one of those firms that are going to be investing in Delaware C corporations, and those are going to be ones that are like angel investors, where you're basically investing in somebody else's business as a primary investor or an angel investor, where you're going to be getting controlling shares, voting shares of that company until such time as your investment is paid off, where you're still receiving revenue from those particular types of situations. Now, venture capitalists, your C corporation can be a venture capitalist. You can take your C corporation's profits, so that 60% that's not going into your investor's pocket, you could take that 60% and you can invest it into another company where you could get, your company can get dividends from that company, and then those dividends can mesh with the dividends from other investment situations and cover the overhead of the properties that's being held. And then if you have investors outside of yourself, you can funnel out dividends on that revenue. Now, one of the things that I have noticed about the discussion of C corporations is that they have this thing called being double taxed. And the thing that's called being double taxed is because you're going to get taxed on the revenue that you receive, but you're also going to get taxed on the dividends that you distribute to your shareholders. So this is going to be another one of those situations where you're probably not going to want to do the distribution unless you don't really care about the taxes. or if you can write those taxes off some kind of way. But when you think about the fact that we've talked about this a number of times on the podcast, that if you have any type of shares that you're utilizing and you use those shares as collateral leverage in any type of other investment scenario, you technically don't have to get paid back off of the shares of the stock of the company. You could technically receive a cash loan that is backed by the assets that you have, and then you can utilize that cash loan to buy whatever the fuck you want, and then you can take whatever dividends that you get from wherever you're getting them from and redirect them to that cash loan. Then you don't have to pay for anything. You don't owe anything. You got to make it make sense. Now, it builds itself up in a way because you will be generating a larger quantity of wealth. You'll be generating a larger quantity of inheritance, and well, that you'll be able to leave your lineage, but you'll be building yourself up with a more comfortable standard of living than what you will be doing working a 9-to-5 as a W-2 or as a misrepresented 1099, where you're they're not paying taxes for you, but you're subcontracted. You go whenever you want to, or you go whenever they tell you, because you really can't go whenever you want to. But you know what I'm trying to say. You get out there, you do the work, you come back, you're making pennies on a dollar. You're not really 100% satisfied with the situation that you're in, but it pays the bills. In those scenarios, you're in a position where you're limited to your success. So building a C corporation gives you the ability to establish a whole different level of success. You can still have your W-2 on the side. But you benefit from tax write-offs from your LLC because those are passed through to you as the individual. But your C corporation on its own front is going to handle all of the expenses that are written under the tax ID with the profits and losses under the tax ID of the C corporation. So it is always beneficial to try to figure out other ways to make money for you, like, for example, getting yourself a C corporation. Now, one of the things that I wanted to talk about today, because I was going to talk about all of the steps that you would have to go through, but the steps are pretty short. I can go into detail about them, but a lot of them really require you to do some background research on exactly what you want to do with your business. Because depending upon what you want to do with your business, how you want your business to be represented will be different instructions. And I decided that what we would do is that we would provide more detailed information to the members that have joined the membership. So over on the YouTube platform, for those of you that have joined the membership, we will have more detailed and more in-depth instructions as to what all has to be accomplished and how you got to accomplish that. But we can kind of give you some cliff notes as to what tiers you need to work through to make sure that you understand what you need to do to accomplish getting your C corporation at least started to the recognition of a shell corporation, right? And we'll be going into detail about shell corporations at a later time. But while we're talking about this, we wanted to be able to make sure that everybody was still on par with our understandings and developments of our C corporations and how we would make that big business work. So think about this. If you're doing large quantities of cash investments, you can do a stock corporation. And by doing, you have to look up the tax codes for the type of business that you're going to do. If you're going into investments, what type of investments you're going to be going into. Typically, I would be tap dancing around real estate. But if you're going to go into other types of investments, you have to label what type of investment you're going to be going into. You got to look at those tax laws, do a lot of research, maybe talk to a CPA about it, and then you'll be able to grab the type of tax code that represents your investment strategies. Now, when you do this, what you'll end up doing, you'll be able to benefit from whatever tax benefits are inside of that area. Depending on what you're doing with your business. You can subcontract your business into just about anything, which means that whatever your business is subcontracted into can reap income, and that income can be taxable. And then whatever overhead Your overhead is whatever money you spent for the year on whatever the hell you had to spend it on. Certain things are tax deductible, certain things are not. Certain things have partial tax deductions on them, certain things do not. And if you know what all those things are, you can definitely get a large enough tax write-off on your income to the point where you at least don't have to pay for taxes. And the reason why I say you don't have to pay for taxes as opposed to you get a refund returns back to you taxed money that was taken from you throughout the year, which that's another one. Only do annual tax returns, because if you're doing quarterly tax returns, you got to pay that taxes based on the revenue that you made throughout the year. And then at the end of the year, depending upon the quantity of money that you've made for the year versus the expenses that you had throughout the year, you would get a refund back because you paid taxes on the business throughout the year. If you do an annual, not a quarterly, if you do an annual tax payout or a tax declaration, which that's going to be within your setup scenario, you would be able to once a year claim all of your expenses and then claim all of your income. And between the two, if it balances out, that for C corporations, if more than 20% is spent on business, or if you wanted to go that extra mile and say more than 40% was spent on business, you don't have to pay taxes on the remaining 60%. Then again, you also have the fact that with C corporations that you can donate to a charity if you're choosing that is a publicly funded charity, and that publicly funded charity will then qualify you to receive dollar for dollar tax credits. Before COVID, it was up to 50% of your income, but now after COVID, I do believe they've raised it up to 100% of your income can be directly donated to charity of your choice to be utilized as a tax credit up to 5 years from the date that you donated the money. So if in the event that you have more of a donation than you have debt, you can use a portion of the amount of money that you donated, get a credit on that, then use another portion the next year, get a credit on that, then use whatever's left for up to 5 years. So you donate 40 grand and you use 10 grand a year of your donation towards tax write-offs, you can do that for 5 years. Heavy. Got to get some sizzle up on this. Now, I thought that was a phenomenal scenario. If you've got a C corporation on the left, and the C corporation on the left is able to build up assets, because every time you buy something that's not a car, you put it under your C corporation's name. You buy a car, you put that under your LLC because it's limited. You take extra cash and you put some of it into your C corporation with your holdings, because I mean, if your C corporation is making money to pay for the overhead, then you don't have to pay for the overhead. There you go. But likewise, if you have another C corporation that is just cash investments, you can build up the cash investments on that business, utilize that business to a magnitude where the business is actually turning a profit off of its investments. You could then take those investment plans and turn that particular type of portfolio into a ability to go public as an investment company, where you can get investors, public investors, to invest in your investments, where they would get percentages off of their investing into your investments, which gives you more money to invest into investments. And then the difference between what they gave you versus what you made is going to be the cost of doing business. So if you're giving people 10% or 18% interest after the maturity rate of their investment for 20 years, then, or 10 years or something to that effect, out of 401ks and IRAs and stuff, then they're throwing their money in. You're taking the money, you're putting the money on the back end. You're putting it into the investment now, and you're taking it on the back end, and you're going to be paying everybody back. You can also borrow against a stone to cover the cost of paying things back. But when you've got loans that you're paying off, and you've got mortgages that you're paying off, and you've got investors that you got to pay off, the total quantity of profit that you actually brought back off of that business venture is going to zero itself out. Because while you're still getting money in from new investors, you're basically paying off your old investors with your new investors, and you're taking any money that you borrowed to offset the difference to cover the overhead, cover the expenses, and then when you do get profits, you're paying back the loan. It's a tangled web we weave. But the way that everything works itself out is that you end up not having to pay for the taxes on the income, because you have gotten enough tax breaks to eliminate your obligation to pay taxes for the C corporation. That is not for yourself. That is for the C corporation. So if you're setting up one over here for stuff, preferably real estate, and then another one over here for the cash, stocks, bonds, and crypto, government bonds, and all this other stuff, then you've got two different companies, two different C corporations set up where money is flowing in for you. Now, the third one in the middle, and that's outside of those of you that actually set up charities, where that's a C corporation by itself. But you've got the LLC. That's the one that does business. So if somebody doesn't like the way you do business, they sue the LLC. The LLC is limited. The LLC doesn't have access to the money or the stuff. So when the LLC buys something, it puts it into the possession of the holdings. The LLC invests something, it invests into the cash. It's a shareholder. It gets dividends back. And then those dividends that is paid out is offset by the debt. The C corporation doesn't have to pay anything. The profit that the LLC gets, the LLC reinvests it back into itself. Everything is making, it's balancing everything out, where you end up not having debt. And you've seen that there are some pretty knowledgeable people out there that are taking the time to put a lot of effort into when they get the money out for themselves. Like, for example, if they invest in something with their own money, that's a debt. Then they flip it, they make a profit off of it. Before they make a profit off of it, they borrow against the stone. When they borrow against the stone, they pay off the loan, and the difference between what they made in profit versus what they have to pay in a loan, they put that in their pocket, and then they remortgage something else, and then they go and pay the other thing. And what do I mean by that? It's like, for example, you buy a house for $100K. The house is worth $200K. You get a loan for $200K. You take $50K. You put that in your pocket. You build a house for the $100K. You flip the house for $200K, and then you pay back the $150K, and you have the tenant pay for the $50K difference. You just made $50K, but it's under a loan, so you got a non-taxable profit for yourself. You have those other situations where you can get it for $100K. You can put $50K into it, so you got $150K going towards it. You can get $300K back. Out of that $300K, you would be able to take $150K and go and buy something else. You still got $50K that you could put into your pocket, but because all of that came in on a mortgageable loan, the tenant's going to pay for the loan. You pocketed 50 grand, and whatever you didn't pocket, you put on a second business deal. So now you're actually buying and holding properties instead of flipping them for the quick win. And if you're buying and holding properties, where are you going to put the properties that you're holding? Into your C corporation, your holding company. Now, if you're, instead of just putting your 50K into your pocket, if you're taking that 50K out of the real estate deal and then you're putting that 50K into stocks and bonds and mutualities, then you're taking that 50K and you're investing it somewhere in places like, say, for example, Bitcoin, and you put it over there, and now that 50K it turns into 100K, turns into 200K, while you're sitting over here taking the difference and going and buy more real estate property. Now your money is divided in two different directions, same dollars working twice, and your tenants is paying back the base loan, and everything is tied to the asset. So if the situation flops, they get that property, but they don't get your stuff, and then you're in a good spot. You're in a good spot because now when the money comes back, because this money goes to the holding company, you've already bought more stuff. You're borrowing against a stone. When you borrow against a stone, you put in 50K, you're about to get back 250. Instead of getting back the 250, you reinvest it into the stocks and you get 250 grand worth of stock. And then you go and take you a cash loan out against the 250 grand worth of stock. and you put that in your pocket too. Now you got 250 grand worth of cash, and the stock is paying for the loan. Taxes is going to work itself out. You're going to reach a point if you're spending enough money in the right places, where you're making enough money in the right places, and you're turning over more profits than you are spending money on bills and stuff. Then you're going to reach a point where you just got to pay Uncle Sam. But that's the cost of doing business. Once you're making the kind of money where you're making $200,000-$300,000 a month, you don't really care that 50, 75 grand, 100 grand went to the U.S. government out the year. But again, if you do care, you can always, like I say, donate 10% of your income to the charity, publicly funded charity. So if you know one or create one, then boom, there you go. Send your money to that direction, and then you're good to go. And if you have a legitimate charity, and that legitimate charity is literally doing charitable things, then it's not a waste, because instead of giving it to the 500 plus U.S. Congress people that are going to be paying for their own agendas with the money that you're giving them, you could actually be taking that and taking care of folks that are trying to get them up on their feet. You can find some aspiring people and train them and put them to work in your companies. And then instead of you being a sole proprietor, you can actually have legitimate C corporations. And one of the best things about C corporations is because they're businesses. If you help people get jobs, there's a grant for that. And if you're working in real estate, and any property that's not turning a profit is a loss. So there's a tax write-off there, but any property that's not turning a profit, that is helping somebody who doesn't have a place to stay, there's a grant for that too. Anything that you know, people getting out of jail, they have a hard time with trying to find employment. You don't give a shit what their background is. If they have the knowledge and skill set and capabilities to do the things that you need done, and they're willing to follow instructions, you can actually develop a rehabilitation program. There's a grant for that. There's a grant for internships, which means that you could start up a business from the ground up yourself, where you're working it yourself. You can utilize it to protect all of your assets, but then while you're utilizing it to protect all your assets, you can interconnect certain different types of things that you are doing on a day-to-day basis into something that is actually being backed by U.S. government funds, and then you could get paid from the U.S. government to do stuff that you probably would have done anyway, but because you're doing it under a business, you get all this extra capital back. So now, instead of you saying, oh man, I got to go hire 3, 4, 5 people, I got to take that out of my payroll. Well, no, if you're getting grants from internships, you hire 4 or 5 interns from the 50 grand worth of intern money they gave you. You're paying them from the government. The government's paying their wages. If you're dealing with rehabilitating ex-cons, if they're giving $20,000, $30,000 for your rehabilitating ex-cons, you're able to take that and put that into rehabilitating ex-cons. And that means that you're not actually losing any money by hiring help. You're actually getting more manpower, and you're getting a free ride from the government in order to pay for that manpower. These are all ways that the C corporations can benefit you in ways that people don't really realize. Now, while we're back into the real estate conversation that we were talking about, if you're in real estate, if you are in a situation where you're buying and selling and spending with your real estate, this is one of the biggest thumbs up that people like to talk about, is taking your money and going and traveling with it. Because every fucking thing that you do is a business venture. If you're traveling all 50 states of the United States to go and find other properties to pick up for your business as an employee of the business, even if you're not actually accumulating an actual wage from the business, you are considered an employee of the business, even if you are the owner of the business. And when you represent the business, your business gets tax write-offs. So you take a business trip, you get tax write-off. You get per diem, tax write-off. Now, remember, per diem is like 50%. So if you do a $100 a plate situation, they're technically only going to give you $50 back of that on deductions. But the principle of the fact is that it's a tax write-off. Your plane ticket's a tax write-off. Your hotel stay is a tax write-off. As long as you're representing the business when you fly over there with the intent to potentially close a deal over there, whether or not you succeed doesn't necessarily have to be the thing. The fact that you were doing business when you travel, your business trip is a vacation. So you can literally be buying property next to Disney World while enjoying Disney World. If you have a meeting with a client in Disney World, while there's going to be some percentages of that that's going to be discounted, it's still going to be deducted. You still have anything that's done for the business, parking, tolls, all of that stuff is being written off. So, you don't have to worry about all the tolls from Jacksonville to Miami. You just know that if you claim it on your taxes, it's written off. Just pay the shit. It's written off. Put it into a parking garage. Who gives a fuck? It's written off. You want to spend money. I heard one of the most interesting things this week that I thought was very, very intriguing to hear is that poor people avoid debt, and middle class people try to manage it, and rich people actually love it because they use debt to evade or elude the opportunity to pay taxes. So if instead of you wanting the debt because you're going to write this shit off later, most people are saying, "Nah, I don't want to be caught up in that debt." That's one of the main reasons why when I talk to college students and I say, "Hey, if you don't need loans, you want them. You don't need loans, you want them." As a career student, you want to accumulate $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 worth of debt as a student that you're taking that $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 and putting it somewhere where it's making money for you. Then you can take the principal out and put it back on a loan, pay the loan off up front. And while we still have tax deductions for loans, because from what I hear, that's going to go away soon. But when you're paying off your student loans, dollar for dollar, your student loans is a tax deduction. So what if you made $100,000 worth of profit off of your $100,000 worth of student loans, where you turned your $100,000 into $200,000? If they're going to charge you 20% on your $200,000 profit, that is what, $40,000, right? That's the amount that they would tax you is $40,000. But if the U.S. government is going to give you a deduction on $100,000 worth of student loans that you paid back, then you get $100,000 worth of credits. The $40,000 worth of taxes you was required to pay, offset by the $100,000 worth of credits that you don't have to pay. And understandable, I have to restate that it's actually a deduction, not a credit, because they're not going to reimburse you, because that's the difference. A credit, like earned income credit, is that's money that's going to come to you. So if you overshoot the amount of money that you owe the U.S. government, credits will pay you. Deductions just reduce the quantity that you have to pay. So restating that to the $100,000 worth of deductions that the U.S. government will give you for paying on a student loan will then offset the $40,000 you have to pay the U.S. government for the amount of money that you profited off of, which ultimately means that you owe $0 because you cannot deduct from zero. You can only get a credit if your credit exceeds zero. You get paid off of it. It's a reimbursement, but your deductions go down to zero. So if you spent more money than what you made, so if you put $100,000 into a stock and you turn it $100,000 into $200,000, and then they tax you $40,000 on that action, but you pay $100,000 towards your loans, you don't pay taxes on that. But your loans are paid off. You got an 800 credit score, and you still got $100,000 worth of stocks. That is all interest. That's the kind of stuff I tell college students that they could be doing so that their money can make money for them, so that they can benefit from going to college. You're not going to college to get the piece of paper. Yeah, you're going to college to get the piece of paper. But if you're thinking financially, you're not going to college to get a piece of paper. You're going to college so that you can get extra money that you don't need, so that you can flip that money into things that you can do other things with. Because if you got $100,000 in stocks and bonds right now, after you've gotten out of college and you've paid off all your student debt, now you have a high credit score, and you got $100,000, which means you can use that $100,000 to leverage towards getting you some assets. Now you're trickling your way into real estate. If you're trickling your way into real estate, you're able to utilize that $100,000 to get you some real estate property that will offset the interest rates off of the stocks that you got. And then if your stocks are getting into your real estate, and your real estate is going to be holding it, you're not going to flip it. You're going to hold it. You're going to hold it. You're going to renovate it, turn it into a rental property. You got a residual income coming in now. And now the cost of the property mortgage is going to offset the profits that you're getting from your tenant and your stock. Now, if you're doing like I be talking about doing, and I'm like, hey, you're going to get an LLC that's a property manager. You create yourself an LLC that's a property manager. So now you got two LLCs. one to buy real estate, one to manage the properties, the holding company that's holding the properties, and another holding company that's holding the money. You got 4 businesses there. Starting to sound like Donald Trump now, right? And you're utilizing this property management company where you're paying somebody to monitor the fact that the rent's getting paid, manage the properties, do the repairs, background checks on the tenants. You can just create yourself a company that does that, tax write-off. And now you got 4 companies that are intertwined with one another. And businesses can own businesses, and businesses can invest in other businesses. So you can have the holding company invest in your LLC or invest in your cash C corporation stock. And then you can also double back and have your dividends paid from your cash C corporation to your property holding C corporation. And then you can also donate to a C corporation charity, and you can also double back and invest or reinvest cash into a real estate investment transaction with your LLC, where one business is paying for another business to do something and getting reimbursed or getting dividends off of that action, where each one of your businesses is paying for one another. Now, I talk about all of this because, like, we really could be doing this in ways where our money's making money for us. And they're talking about, like, oh man, they bought 4 plexes for their kids when their kids were born. Most of us can't do that. You got people talking about how they bought stuff for their kids and got their kids set up in places where their kids are able to be successful. Most people can't do that, but you can start putting money in certain places where you can start investing in small stuff that leads into large profit margins, that leads into larger investments. A lot of people say that it's high risk to invest into tax liens, but you know, if you're investing into a tax lien using your C corporation, the losses from investing into your tax liens is written off on your taxes. So every time that you have a gain on your tax liens, that's a profit. That profit is taxable up to 20% on a C corporation, 35% for a person. That's going to be 15% come next year, but 30% if you're making over $168,000 a year. And if you're ending up in a C corporation where you have a cap of the maximum quantity of money they're going to tax you on a ship that you're going to make, why are you not shooting for the cap? You know what I'm saying? And then if you're investing in this company and you're getting all of these dividends back, guess what else you can do? You can establish business credit. And if you're establishing business credit, you're able to do 2 things. You're able to take your personal debt, pay it off with the business credit, and then now you have perfect credit. Your business credit is going to be paid off by the debt that your business is paying off the debt by the profits that your business is making, which ultimately means that your business is going to be able to zero out your personal debt. I've told people before, when they're setting up businesses, you got multiple businesses. You might want to get 2 or 3 of them some bitches. And your reason why you want to get 2 or 3 of them is because if you are establishing business credits, a lot of the times startups require you to do personal guarantors. A personal guarantor is when you, even though the business represents itself for a C corporation, you are backing the loan personally. That's what a personal guarantor is, which means that if in the event that the business flops, the person with the personal guarantor contract is obligated to pay for the loan. Now, you want to get personal guarantor lines of credit just to get the lines of credit, but then after you get those lines of credit, you don't want to damage those because you're going to be liable for those. You want to go out and now go get you some unsecured that is just up against the business assets and the business credit. And that is going to be what you're going to utilize. The unsecured stuff, that it's only the responsibility of the C corporation. If the C corporation fails, all of the debt is in the C corporation. All of the assets or any other C corporations holding the holding company. And then you're able to liquidate whatever you got to liquidate, wash everything away, and you don't have any stress. If you're accumulating stuff, and even if you have to start up another business, you got a shit ton of stuff, it's easier the second, third, fifth time around to start up yet another business. You're going to run out of names. You're going to have to use ChatGTP in order for you to find a good name for your business, depending on a niche that your business is going to be representing. But to get the business started up, it's going to be way easier. If you've got perfect credit because all of the debt is gone with another business, and you've got all these assets that you can leverage for collateral to get startup cash, you can start up another business a lot easier. So this is another reason why it's good for us to get C corporations, because we will be able to create and maintain a large number of things in a smaller area, and you don't even need to have 1,000 employees. It could be you and five motherfuckers that you trust that got good work ethics. Because I know people that got terrible work ethics that are supposed to be some of my closest buddies, and we can't make $1 million together because they don't have the same work ethic that I do. I understand that. And the thing is that when you're running a big business, even your friendships start becoming collateralizable, and if they're going to be involved in the business, they got to be involved in the business or get replaced like an employee because they're collateralizable. You know, you're going to make billions, they're going to make millions with you. If they're not trying to make it with you, then you got to make it by yourself. But one of the other things that's another benefit about making these big business C corporations, you start doing business bank accounts, you start doing business bank investments, you start doing business offshore accounts. You have to have a US based bank account for your US based business in order for you to receive US based tax deductions. But there's no law that says that your business cannot have a foreign domestic branch in another country. So what is the most successful niche that you can get into that I've been talking about on the show, incidentally, over the past 4 months, that actually is a pretty sweet ass market? Real estate. I told y'all before, if you go to Japan, they got $0 properties over there because their property value declines only. It does not increase, it just declines only. Now, for people who are thinking about, oh, I want assets, I want my properties to have value. So if the property is worthless, I don't want it. Well, if you're holding the property for residual income, you're not trying to gain a property because of its value. You're gaining the property because of the space and the quantity of money you're going to make off of the space. So does it matter to you a $1.5 million piece of land value that's generating no wealth versus a $0 land that's generating $2,000 a month worth of wealth? Like, the difference between the two is that if you got $2,000 a month worth of revenue per acre, or $4,000, $6,000, $8,000 a month per acre, where you've got 4 units, or for some reason you have a complex there where on that acre of property you got like 20 units on there, and you're getting $2,000 per unit. Come on, man. $2,000 per unit for 20 units, that's what, $40,000. So would you prefer to have a $1.5 million valued property that you're probably only going to be able to borrow 50% of? Or would you prefer to have a $40,000 a month residual income? That's $400,000 in 10 months. So you're almost at 1.5. The 1.5 is valued over the period of a lifetime until the property value goes down because of a recession. But the 400,000 every 10 months is going to be 400,000 every 10 months until you raise the rent. So if you're going to another country where the taxes on the property is $50 for the whole year, and y'all know that we got some properties over here in America where we paying 5, 10 grand, 20, 30, 40 grand for property taxes. They got property taxes that's 50 grand in China, in Japan, in Asia. And like, we sitting over here killing each other trying to get a full bedroom house for $500,000 when you could go get you a $4 million house, or a 4-bedroom house in Japan for $0 and $65 worth of property taxes, including back taxes and closing costs. Like, you spend more money on a Heartline bus pass than what you would buying properties in Japan. And I'm trying to tell y'all that if we was building these C corporations here in the United States, where we would set everything up here, get all of our legitimate establishments together here in the United States, and then business trip, we're flying to a third world country to see the sites, talk to the United Nations over there, get all the details that we need, and then start buying properties over there. Set up your corporation over there, and then start buying properties over there. And I told y'all we did a show 2 months ago, And I told you guys about one of the incentives that they're giving the men when we were talking about relationships and how the men were going to other countries because it was better over there. The men were being treated better. They were more respected by the women over there as opposed to the way the Western women treat the men in the United States. And when we were talking about that, I was talking about some of the incentives. Like Nagano, Japan is one of those places that I talked about. And that's the reason why I'm still mentioning that country is because they'll offer you $23,000 to start up a business over there as long as you hire 2 Japanese people to run the business. So piecing the puzzle together, you're building a holding company that's going to hold your assets. You're building a holding company that's going to hold your cash. You got an LLC that's going to do transactional stuff. You're going to have a management company that's going to manage your stuff. You're going to do foreign domestic companies in Japan. And each time you set up something, they give you $23,000. It costs $8,500 a year to stay there. They're going to give you $23,000. So you start up a real estate company that's going to buy properties. You hire 2 real estate agents. You hire 1 real estate agent and 1 broker. So your half of the team is set. And buying properties, you're good. You're good to go. You're going to get 23 grand for setting up that business just to go out there and buy properties. Now, you're going to set up a property management company. They're going to give you another $23,000. You hire 2 employees over there. You didn't hire 4 people where 2 of them is going to make sure that your tenants is paying rent, and 2 of them is going to make sure that you're picking up properties that can be renovated and built up to be utilized as rental properties. Now you got 4 people in Japan that is building your wealth for you, and you just got $46,000 to do that. Now, you can put that in your pocket, or you can take that $46,000 and put it towards paying your workers to run the business. And you could have a pretty much portable business. You don't necessarily have to have a physical entity, but you could have a physical entity. But if you had a physical entity, the first property you would buy would be the property that your business would be on. And if you bought a plaza, you could have each one of your businesses in one of those plazas that you own. You own a whole lot, and then you put each one of your businesses at each one of those plazas. You hire your employees, and then you have your employees go out there and start doing what you need them to do. And each time you fill up one of the office spaces of the plaza that you bought, you're getting $23,000 for setting up another business. Each business in the as a U.S. business that is on foreign land, they only charge you $120,000. No, they don't tax you until you make over $120,000 in that country. So while you're making money in the U.S., you could be making another $120,000 somewhere else for each business that you have, and the U.S. government would not tax you on that money if you're making $120,000 or less. If you don't have 4 businesses in another country where that $120,000 going across 4 ways, do you see what's going on right now? You got what, $480,000 worth of income coming in from other countries, and you're not taxed on that. And then the money that you're making in the U.S., you're not taxed on that either. And specifically, Japan is giving you $28,000 or $23,000 per business that you start up over there, as long as you hire 2 of their people to run it. You don't want to run it anyway, so you want to be able to go over there and start up a business and pay somebody else to run the business for you. But if you're getting $23,000 to do that, and the standard of living out there, like I said before, is $8,500 a year, which means that the $23,000 you could literally either put it into stocks and bonds and then use the interest off of stocks and bonds to pay your workers, or you could just put that into a bank account as basic money that will go towards your employee's salary for the next 2 years. You got 2 years to build your business up, and you can do business visas where you can fly out there, be out there for 6 months to a year, making sure that business is running smooth, and then you can fly away. And while you're gone, they're going to be running it the way you want it to be ran. And then when you come back, everything is going to be looking better. And all of this has to do with, and you can do mergers and all this other stuff that you can do to reinvest yourself into building yourself a level of generational wealth. So all the way around, these are the reasons why we should be doing C corporations. And that was just one country. If you're traveling and you're going to Switzerland, you're going to Finland, you're going to Brazil, you're going to Portugal, and you're doing this all over the world, as you're building up this generational wealth, it's easier for you to travel because your C corporations that you created are making money. But that is where the American dream came from with capitalism, is that you create something that generates enough wealth for you to be able to create something else that generates wealth, where you're now waking up every day trying to figure out what else can you do to generate wealth. This is why I said, well, why don't we just start setting up some C corporations all over the place? Now, let me go ahead and tell you real quick, since I told you one of the reasons why we're doing this. You want to go ahead and start by getting your C corporation to select the type of name that you want to have for your company. If you don't already have one in your name, in your mindset, and the name is going to be something that's not already registered, so you're going to try to have to be unique. Not always can you be 100% unique. Somebody probably has a portion of the name that you decide, but you're going to try to get something that's pretty much separate from who you are. That way, because if your name is in the title of the business, if they sue you, they can also sue the business too. So you want to make sure that it's something separate from your name. That's one of the first things that you want to make sure that you do. But once you get your name, you can then go slide on down and skip everything else to go grab your EIN. And that's going to be utilized for your tax identification number for your business, your employee identification number. That's what EIN stands for. But that is going to represent your business. And once you get that, then you can go back and start doing things like getting your appointed registered agent, where you're going to have somebody who's going to specifically collect mail on behalf of your business. So when somebody mails you legal action or something to that effect, this person collects it and then they redirect it to you so that you know that you're being sued. They also send you government documents to make sure that your business is up to date, stuff to that effect. So your registered agent is very important to have. You could be your own registered agent, or somebody that you know, somebody that you trust. If you start up a business with somebody, can be a registered agent for you, utilizing their address. They just got to make sure you get somebody that checks the mail. You can't get somebody that you got to call every couple of weeks and say, hey, have you checked the mail recently? You got to have somebody that actually checks the mail to be your registered agent, because otherwise the shit's gonna fall. It's gonna fall short if you don't have somebody that you can count on that's diligent about their shit. So with that being said, you have the articles of incorporation. That's something that gets filed with the creation of the business. There are some places that will help you with setting this stuff up, but they typically try to encourage you to do LLCs. Why do they encourage you to do LLCs when C corporations are so beneficial? Because LLCs are going to help you on a small scale be able to get your business style tax breaks to a minimalistic degree for your individual self. It is not C corporation style. So most of those start your own business apps are typically talking about getting you set up with an LLC, because there's limited liability. But the C corporation deductions that are going to come out with Project 2025 in 2025 are not for LLCs. They're for C corporations. They're for big business. They're for high earners. You get a C corp, you get a LLC, you're going to end up with 20 to 35% taxes that you got to offset, instead of the actual 20 to 13.8% taxes, depending on what you're doing with your C corporation. So it's highly important that you figure out what you're trying to do with your C corporation as you're setting it up. But while you get your articles of incorporation in there, where you've got your state agency set up, you've got your corporate file set up, and your articles are going to include the number of authorized shares that you have in your company. Like some of the companies that I have like 100 authorized shares. You can change that, reincorporate or update your incorporations and update your shares and stuff to that effect. You can talk to your CPA, talk to your tax lawyers, and work on how you can split shares and all this other stuff to allow yourself to be more feasible with your investment style. And then depending on the type of companies that you have, there are some laws that limit you to the quantity of shareholders that can be in the business, but the amount of money that they can invest is not limited. So, you could do a contract with each individual person that wants to be a shareholder and offer them a type of contract where the percentage of money that they donate for their share will result in a certain quantity of dividends, where they're only getting one share for whatever quantity of money that they're paying, instead of each share that you have in your corporation having a specific value where somebody can buy 100% of your business out from under you. Creating the bylaws. The bylaws are going to be the outlines of the rules and procedures of the business that you need to have. And the bylaws even include the limitations of how your shares are going to be distributed. So if you want to make sure that the company maintains 50%, 51% ownership of itself, where the shares are not going to be divided between other entities, where they got to work with you. And if they don't work with you, that majority rules with 51%, 50% plus one, you want to have 51% of the business under the control of the business. And then everything else, you can kind of dish out a little bit. You can dish out some controlling shares, but you want to be primary controller over your company, unless you're selling it off. Then, of course, who gives a fuck? But after you've done that, then you want to slide back down and you want to try to set yourself up with some appropriate licenses, because depending upon a niche that you get into, you're going to have zoning permits that you need to have, occupational licenses that you need to get. If you're in the health industry, you have to get health permits. You have to get certain business licenses, like in real estate. You have to have a real estate license to buy and sell real estate. If you're just buying it, you don't necessarily have to have the license in and of itself. But you may have to have a license in order to rent out properties. But I know that if you're selling real estate on a regular basis, you definitely need to have a real estate license to sell it. So, you have to figure out like what all you're trying to accomplish with your business. Then when you're dealing with investments, if you're trying to get registered on NASDAQ, or if you're trying to get a high FDIC approval rating or something like that, with the quantity of investment funds that are going to happen, there's a lot more laws involved with that, and there's going to be a lot of lawyers you're going to have to talk to about that, and it's going to cost you a lot of money to get all that stuff wrapped up. But as you do it, you would then end up building the type of business that people will invest in your business. They will invest in you, and then you will be able to invest in something else that will turn a profit. And depending on how much money that they invest into your investment company will determine how much money your profit will be. So if they invest in your company, they're getting a 8% profit or 10% profit off of the investment. You have to take their cash and invest it into something that's going to give you a 20% profit, so that you can give them a 10% profit and still have 10% profit. But even if you wanted to walk away with a 3 to 5% profit off the situation, if they're going to get 10%, you've got to guaranteedly get 15%, so that you could offset and give them their 10 back, and then you still keep your 5. You can have introductory fees when you're setting up these businesses, where they're going to put the money in. There's going to be a filing fee of some sort where you're taking out a percentage, maybe 1 or 2%. And then you're going to invest the principal into the situation, where you're guaranteeing them that they'll get back 10%, because you're at least going to come back with 12%. But you got your cut in the beginning, so it doesn't really matter. If you broke even with 10%, you still got paid when the money first came in. Either way it goes, you're able to take somebody else's money and make money for yourself. This is another thing that we should be able to do with our investment companies, but you build a reputation for your business, which is one of the reasons why you want to have your C corporation and your other C corporation for your cash separate from who you are. That way, this business that's doing good business and this business over here that's doing good business are not intertwined with any stupid shit that the people that you know are doing that could negatively hinder your business. But if you've got all of these big businesses, you're not affiliating yourself with people who make stupid choices, because you don't want them to drag you down or the businesses that you built. So with that being said, you also have to remember that when you're building your C corporations, that everything, including technology like cell phone bills, cable bills, internet access situations, websites, laptops, specialists, tax, all the stuff is all tax write-offs on the business. So and then if you remember that if you use, I think 60 to 70%, 70 to 80% of the time you're using the phone for work, the business pays the phone bill. So you can still make personal calls on the company phone, but if more than 80% of the usage of the phone is work related, it's a business write-off. So Same thing with working from home. If at least 50% of the cost of the house is written off on your taxes, unless, of course, you can show that more than 80% of business is being done off of that particular property, which ultimately means that that property becomes business write-off. So there's so many things that can be done if you decided to build yourself a C corporation that I strongly encourage that you try to do, and you try to get yourself in there and try to make it work, make it make sense, build it up. We got a lot of opposite over here missing. I'm missing a lot of comments coming in here. Are you using a Fuji dispensable camera for your streaming? Okay. Actually, that is a good question. So I kind of missed it. You asked it about, it's about 6 minutes ago. So I'm gonna go ahead and go through a couple of these real quick. Yes, I do believe, hold on, because what I'm using right now is the web camera from my Lenovo i7 laptop. But all right, everybody else is gonna see me disappear real quick. This is the web camera up top here. That's what that light is right there. That is a Fuji camera for the webcam setup for TikTok, because I actually have two web cameras on my podcast right now that are working, because I'm streaming off of two different locations. And that's going to be one of the things that it's a complicated situation to have. But in order for me to make sure that I got everybody in here and kept everybody informed, I had to go ahead and rip and run with multiple cameras. So yeah, I actually did go and got one. And not only did I just get me a web camera, bro, I actually got the web camera off of Temu for like $25. So you could have went and got you a web camera from somewhere else for a few $100s. But I actually went over to Temu, and I actually got links for Temu in the description of some of my shows, where you can click the link and get you some discounts on purchasing everything and signing up with Temu and grabbing yourself stuff like this web camera and this laptop. Because actually, this Lenovo laptop can be bought off of Temu as well. Just about it. I found out that Temu is a better wholesale thing than Amazon, from what I've experienced. And they ship within 7 to 10 days. So most of the stuff that you find, sometimes you get it 2 to 3 days if they have a local warehouse. But most of the stuff that you buy for $100, $200, $300, $500, you can actually get it off of Temu for like 25% of that. So I just wanted to touch base on that. So I appreciate you, Ducky, for asking that question. Then we're going to have, how do you buy shares? Now, how do you buy shares from your business? Well, you actually can contract yourself into buying shares. Now, when you're contracting yourself into buying shares, you have the business, you draw up the contracts, you got to deal with what's fair for you versus what's fair for your business, because you want to make sure that the amount of money that you're putting into your business is going to give you a reasonable quantity of return. But while you're building that money into you're putting that money into your business, you want to make sure that the money that you put into your business can make a larger profit than a quantity of money that you're paying yourself back, because you don't want to take all of the money that goes into the company and pay it out in dividends, where your business is in the hole, as opposed to your business being successful. Now, how do you buy shares from another company? Well, what you do is you reach out to those companies, you talk to some of their higher ups or their accounting departments, their what do they call them? Receivables is what they're kind of calling the accounting department now. And those are the places where you start talking about getting contracts to buy shares. Now, you can also buy shares off of stock. You can buy shares off of TD Ameritrade. You can do micro shares off of places like Cash app, not Cash app, the Stash app, where the other tradables like Acorn and other stuff, where you can buy into stocks and bonds and stuff like that, and then you can make money off of those, where you're getting a percentage of the investment stock, and then you can utilize that investment stock in order to pay off some of the other things that you're trying to buy. But you got to remember that you got to pay taxes on that. So they're going to be looking for a tax identification number or a social security number so that they know who to tell the IRS that they gave profits to. So if you set up a C corporation before you start investing and buying shares in other companies, then you would be able to utilize your tax ID number to get those shares. Now, it depends on who you want to buy shares from, depends on how much money you have to pay on those shares. If you have micro shares, you're able to spend as little as $10, $20 a share. Even if you have options, and options are like little contracts like you see on TD Ameritrade, where you can buy, I think it's 100 shares for a certain price per share, where it's like a $27, but because it's 100 shares, it's like $2,700. So you have to see how much money you have and how much you're buying per share. Just like the companies that I have that actually do have a 100 shares in the company, you would have to contact the owner or somebody who's an authorized representative of the company to get signed up to buy shares. Now, that's how that particular works. Now, Ducky, you were trying to say that actively talking to myself. No, I wasn't actively talking to myself. I was actually actively getting all of the information out and not actively paying attention to both of the comment sections that I have, because I have not only Twitch, because you guys are commenting from Twitch. I actually have people commenting from YouTube, and I also have people coming in from TikTok. So unfortunately, I kind of did miss you guys coming in because I was looking at a different screen, because I was reviewing all of the detailed information I wanted to make sure that you guys had. And I had forgot to double check to make sure that Twitch was showing up and giving us a lot of Q&As. But I do throw a shout out to my man, Red Void, who shows up on a regular basis to listen to what we have on the podcast. And if he has an insight that he wants to share with us, then he definitely throws that stuff out. Now, Ducky's going to talk about grab a book off the shelf. Well, no, you don't have to grab a book off the shelf, because if you grab a book off the shelf, you would have to personally read it, Ducky, and it doesn't look like you do too much reading. So let's go ahead and get with the next question that we had. How do I invest in your company? You know what you're talking about. Well, we've got on our YouTube platform, we actually have an email down below. And if you was to click the link to the email, you would be able to talk to us about that directly as to investment opportunities with the real estate businesses that we have. Likewise, if you were trying to get involved with the podcast in and of itself, you would be able to join a membership on the YouTube platform. We have links in our TikTok bio that you can utilize to get to the YouTube platform to be able to join a membership and then do some investments into some of the things that we got going on. And we can make some recommendations based on the stuff that we see and experience on a regular basis. And this is one of the best ways to do it. You follow us on Twitch as well. And when you follow us on Twitch, when we have more real estate or investment style topics that we're going to be talking about, because we do got other things that's coming up soon, that you would be able to dive in on those and be able to get a lot of information on those questions as well, or that information as well. For those of you that are on TikTok, if you follow us on TikTok, you could get some more information from us, but we're typically giving more in-depth information for our YouTube memberships. So, Bradicus, I'll try to see if I can tag you. If you followed us today from today's show, then we should be able to answer a lot of your questions after the show, and then potentially link up and get you some more information. And it is my apologies that, I got a lot of windows here that are open. So one of the things that I have an issue with is keeping track of all of the different comment sections. So it is what it is. But I do really appreciate the fact that we had a lot of people coming in and giving us a few questions on the real estate situation, because I had a lot of information to dump on you guys, and that's one of the reasons why Ducky Actual felt like I was just talking for the sake of talking. No, I really, as much as I can't say that I don't like to talk, I like to talk. I like to talk a lot about a lot of stuff that makes sense. but I got to make it make sense because I don't just like talking about bullshit. I like to tell people about stuff. I spent a lot of time going to college so that I could get knowledge, and I did not end up using it for what I went to college for. I understand that college used to be free, and it used to be the ability to pass down information from generation to generation. And in our capitalist country, I understand that we spend more time selling information to one another for a buck so that we can make money off of talking to people. And I understand that people become influencers and motivational speakers and life coaches and all of this so that they can get paid to talk to people, but they're not actually telling people what they need to be successful. I know that people will tell you, oh, hey, come join my webinar. And if you join my webinar, I'll give you a shit ton of information that'll make you better and blah, 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 blah. And then when you join their webinar, you spend an hour and 45 minutes listening to this fucking webinar, and it doesn't tell you jack shit about what you need to be better at what the fuck you were trying to be better at. And you just sat there and wasted all this time. And now that he's wrapping up this webinar, if he hasn't done it every 15 minutes in the webinar, he's definitely doing it towards the end of the webinar, where he's telling you, hey, you want the information that you came to this webinar for after you watched the commercial to come to the webinar, and then you came to the webinar, and then you signed up for this extra shit. You still got to buy something so that you can get the information that you wanted to have. I'm not going to do that. I'm sitting here telling you for the last hour and 20 minutes all of the different reasons why you should do a lot of the things that I'm telling you to do. And then I'm telling you a lot of the reasons why you should follow my channel so that you can get more information on how to get shit done. And then you either follow my channel or you don't. But you're still going to get the information. Information is fucking free. You didn't have to pay for Twitch. You didn't have to pay for YouTube. Those of you that are watching YouTube Premium, you don't get to watch commercials. But those of you that are watching YouTube for free, you just got to deal with that inconvenience for the commercial that breaks in every now and again. 5 to 15-second commercial that breaks in. And now you just got lag between when you got logged off until what's going on right now. But that doesn't change the fact that you're still getting all the information for free. And then you can go back and rewatch any of the shows that we put up for you so that you're able to see any information that you missed. And everything that we leave on a podcast, we leave on a podcast for a very long time. I only take down stuff that's like 9 months old, stuff like that, stuff that hasn't seen a view in like 90 days. That might be something I might take off the podcast. But anything that's still being watched today, that's been watched in the last 90 days, it's still up there. So all of the information, especially if I'm still making shorts out of it, if I'm still making trailers out of it, that the primary live is still up there for you guys to go back and look at all of that information. And if you go back and look through the podcast, you see that there's 3 or 4 different financial investment podcasts specifically for the members, detailed information specifically for the members. I just did a show last week that was telling you guys about how to invest in low interest or low risk investment options, as much as stock, as well as everything else. There are different ways where you can invest in stuff that had anywhere between 3 months and 20 years as a maturity rate of that investment situation. But I also told you guys about ways to put your money in fast cash, where you can drop money into something where it can gain you interest until you have an emergency. And for those people who have emergencies on a regular basis, you can pull that money out with no penalty and then put the money back. I told you guys about it. So you can just go back and watch the show and go and see those things. But if you're looking at the podcast and you're looking at the fact that, oh, well, you asked me a question about my webcam when we was talking about real estate, and then you feel like I didn't acknowledge you because you were asking me a question about my webcam when I'm talking about real estate. And you're going to tell me that I'm just talking to hear myself. No, sir. I'm not even listening to myself with these headphones on. I'm wearing these headphones because the mic is right here. If I had invested extra money for a wireless mic where I wouldn't need these headphones on, I wouldn't even have the headphones on. I wear the headphones so that I can hear y'all, because if you click the link and approve the mic and approve the camera, then you get up onto the show, and then I can hear you on my headset talking to me while I'm talking to you. So, Ducky, if you really wanted to jump up onto the show and ask me a question where you interrupted what I had to say so that I could see you, then you actually would have clicked the link, approved the mic, approved the camera. You would have been in my green room. I would have saw that. And then I would have brought you up on the show, and you could have asked me whatever you wanted to ask me about. But just to answer your question for the sake of answering your question, of course, I got a Fuji camera. But also, I just want to note that I actually dropped my frame rates on TikTok and StreamYard down to I think either 720 or 420. And I dropped it down like that because I'm streaming off of two platforms with my 8 gig hard drive, 8 gig RAM. This RAM is not big enough to stream 2 devices. I got 2 live streams going at the same time right now. So yeah. And so the pixelation, I don't have 4K HD, and I don't need 4K HD. And the reason why I don't need 4K HD is because you can hear what the fuck I gotta say, no matter how fast I talk. You can understand the information that I'm giving you, and you are able to utilize that information for your own benefit. So as long as you can hear me clearly, because one of the things that I love about today's show is that I haven't had any drop frames, I haven't had any freezes on any of my podcasts so far, and I'm able to see myself moving clearly. You guys are able to hear me clearly. I don't have a muffled mic or anything to that effect. So they've approved the platform enough times of me telling them that their shit sucks, that they actually approved their podcast. And, now we're able to have the type of communication that we need for you guys to be able to jump in and interact on a more lively platform. So look, hey, if you guys want to get in there, you guys want to get more information about what we do and how we do it on this and that, because we're talking about random conversations on a regular basis. But I just thought, man, after what we heard about, the way the country is headed with our current election situation, we're going to end up in a situation that requires us to have this knowledge. So I said, well, why don't I just give it to you now? Because I told you so on the 19th of August. And after I told you so on the 19th of August, everything that I said is going to happen is starting to happen. And while it's starting to happen, I'm starting to tell you what you can do to circumvent it. Because we can't change the direction the country is going, but we can prepare for it. A lot of the times I tell people, because truthfully, most of us know this, but for the majority of us, the shit that we're dealing with, the country wasn't made for you. The country was made off the back of your ancestors, but the country wasn't made for you. The country was made for the top 1% of rich people that are benefiting from the shit. The rest of us that are working our asses off to make sure that the top 1% don't have to work is working our asses off to survive. And if you want to not have to work your ass off to survive on a regular basis, then you have to find the loopholes. You have to find the ins and the outs. You have to find a way to cross over. You can either cross over because you're an athlete. You can cross over because you're a rapper or a singer or an actor or a comedian or something like that. You can cross over because you're a podcaster. You can cross over because you're one of those First Amendment guys that's walking around with a video camera harassing the police. Or you can cross over because you got information from somewhere that you wasn't actually looking for, because you were lazily hanging out on your cell phone or on your desktop, scrolling through whatever social media platform that you're watching me on, and then my shit popped up for some reason in your For You page, and now you're listening to some shit that you can benefit from, and you're like, hey, this son bitch makes sense. And for the first time, I'm not just watching some chick shake her ass, some dude set himself on fire, somebody get shot at unnecessarily, or somebody get beat up for no goddamn reason. I'm actually listening to somebody who's talking to me about some sense. I'm not just watching the news. I'm not just watching the election. I'm not just watching a bunch of rich people talk about shit that does not impact me directly. I am, for the first time in a long time, watching a podcast where somebody's actually telling me about something that I can do to better myself today. Now, if you want that kind of podcast, you're just going to keep coming back, because I'm here live 7 nights a week, 9 Eastern, 8 Central, 5 Pacific. And no matter what I got going on, if you go to my YouTube platform, if you're not already there, you go to the channel, you're going to see that I've got it all the way out to about the 18th or 19th of October. I got all the shows listed. You can just scroll through and see which ones you want to see. You can come to all of them, or you can just come to the ones that matter to you. Doesn't matter to me, because I'm going to be here regardless. But I'm going to be sharing information to you for free. I'm going to do in-depth information to my members, because somebody's got to help me pay for the podcast. The podcast ain't free, bro. You tell me somebody's streaming for nothing, and I'm going to tell you that they ain't streaming for nothing. They ain't streaming for nothing. Even affiliate marketers, because one of the things that podcasters get paid off of is advertising. So every time an ad runs across your screen, that's me. I didn't do it, but that's gonna pennies on a dollar. That's gonna be me. That's gonna be what I'm gonna get. And fact is that I'm not just sitting here talking to you just to talk to you. I'm talking to you to inform you. I'm talking to you to enlighten you. But while I'm on the air, somebody's paying me to be on the air. But they're not paying me what I'm paying into this podcast. Podcast ain't free. Now, you start seeing a bunch of affiliate ads coming through. You start seeing a bunch of product drops and all this other stuff. that's when you start seeing, well, a lot of people are sponsoring me to show you a bunch of shit while I'm on the air. And when I'm showing you a bunch of shit while I'm on the air, they're paying me to show you shit while I'm on the air. And they are going to be paying for the overhead. And when they're paying for the overhead, yeah, I will do a commercial break in the middle of my podcast while I see 10, 15, 20, 30, 50, 100 people sitting here watching me. And I'm going to show you guys some shit middle of the podcast just because that's what my sponsors told me to do. And then after I finish satisfying my sponsors, I get back to the main topic. Because why? Got to pay the bills, but I'm here to share information, share knowledge, and then work out the shit that just doesn't benefit men, because this podcast is made by men for men. It will help women from time to time if they learn how to conform to the way they should conform in order for them to be considered partners for men. Not saying that women can't be independent. You could be more than independent. You could be alpha boss ladies all day long. I high five it. You could be a boss lady better than I could be a boss man, because men are going to get distracted by lust. Women are not necessarily going to be distracted by lust. But in order for a woman to be naturally a partner to a man, you got to be able to cooperate with the man. And if you're going to dominate him, that's not cooperation. So when I'm talking to the men about how we can, one, find better women, and we can better ourselves, we can build our own assets, we can get our own legacy that we can leave for our next generation. We can build ourselves a retirement. We can build ourselves comfort. We can build ourselves less stress. We can, instead of working for somebody else where they're talking shit to us because somebody that we don't like didn't do a good enough job, and because we're both in the same location, I'm getting fussed at because that person's slacking off. You don't got to deal with that shit. You don't have to deal with customer complaints because the product sucks, but you didn't make the product. You just work here. You're not even selling the product. You just work here. You're just here to deal with the complaints about the product that you cannot influence at all. You get cussed out because they're dissatisfied about somebody else's job. I don't want to have to work like that. I want to work for myself. I want to work when I want to work. I want to work where I want to work, which means that I should be able to do a job that I can do mobily. I want to be able to travel the world if I can. I want to be able to get paid to do that. I want to be able to do what I'm doing right now, which is have conversations with you guys, telling you guys about things that you need to know. I want to be able to utilize my big brain to do research for things that I'm interested in, that you're interested in, so that I can have more knowledge. Because since nobody's motivated to go find knowledge, and knowledge is supposed to be free, then I can get paid to go find the knowledge for you. That way, you will be able to have the knowledge for free. And guess what? Since I'm going to be looking into so many other different places for so many other different things. So like when Broad told me that, he wants to invest in my company because I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking about because I spent the last 2 months doing research on just today's show before I had spent the last 3 years in the real estate market doing all of the research that I've been doing to give you all of the other insight that I did not get specifically for today's podcast. All of the businesses that I've been setting up, all of the stuff that I've been doing it because I just wanted to make a better life for myself. I wanted to make a better life for my family. I was able to help somebody. I told a family member, I said, you know what? I can fix your credit and get you a house inside of a year. My family member told me they didn't want to hear that. Okay, that's fine. I went to another family member. I told him the same thing. I said, with the knowledge that I've gained, I can fix your credit and get you a house inside of a year. Buying a house next month. It didn't even take, I started in June. I started working with this person in June. Come October, he's going to be tapping into assets. He's going to be picking out a house in November. He's going to be closing on it in January. He's going to be moving into it by February. I started in June because of the knowledge that I got, the information that I received. I was able to look through the stuff that he needs to pay for versus the stuff he doesn't have to pay for. The laws that says that he's not obligated. There's certain debts that are charged off. There's certain charge-offs that are non-recoverables. And non-recoverables means that they can't come after you for the money. And then they also don't report it to the 3 major credit bureaus after a certain number of years, which means that it doesn't even affect your credit anymore. So why are you paying for a debt that isn't even reported to the 3 major credit bureaus? It doesn't really matter anymore, does it? Like I say, staple it to my credit. Staple it to my credit. But credit only goes back so far, just like a driving record. So fact of the matter is that if I know that there's certain things that you can do, like for example, a what do they call that? Off the top of my head. I wasn't planning on doing a show about it. That's why I can't think about it off the top of my head. But it's a document that you generate and you send to the creditor that you let them know that they can't continue to contact you about the debt that they claim that you have. And technically, only your original creditor is supposed to be able to come after you, not the person that was sold the debt. So there's a whole other thing about that. And I probably will do a show about that down the line at some point. But the document that you have, it's cease and desist order. That's what it is. Cease and desist order. You generate a cease and desist order, which I actually got some templates of, and you send them to your the people that owe you money, that you owe money to, and you tell them, hey, it's already been too long. I'm not paying it. Stop contacting me. And if you continue to contact me after this letter, then I will sue you. That's it. And typically, based on the laws, you got certain states that are 2 to 5 years after the debt got charged off, and if it doesn't get paid, it just doesn't get paid. You have other debts that are 7 to 10 years, and in those states where some of them where after that period of time they can't come after you, it's a non-collectible debt. You send them after that time period has elapsed. You send them a cease and desist order. They cannot continue to try to collect that debt anymore because you sent them a written document that tells them that they are not allowed to legally attempt to collect that debt anymore. Then from there, they can still report it to the 3 major credit bureaus until 7 years after the account got charged off. But after that 7th year, it gets taken off your 3 major credit bureaus, which means that you can contact the 3 major credit bureaus. And there's a freecreditreport.com. Look, I stopped talking about real estate. I'm about to help you fix your credit. You're welcome. The freecreditreport.com, you can get to all 3 major credit bureaus. I recommend that you do one every 3 months because that way you can track, or one every 4 months. That way you can track your credit score quarterly and go to each one of them, dispute everything that's up there, and get them to take off a bunch of them. And then by the end of that first year, all of your debts are written off. All of the ones that can be written off are written off. And then all the other ones that are still there, you're either going to have to leave them there or you're going to have to work out a payment option for them. One way or another, you square away all of your debts or all the debts that you feel like squaring away. Your credit score will go up from everything that got removed, all of the delinquent accounts that gets removed off of your credit score. You can also get in there and dispute any inquiries where somebody does a credit pull. You can dispute those. If you didn't authorize a credit pull, they can remove a bunch of those credit pulls off, which brings your credit score up as well. You can also dispute a lot of the addresses that you have on there. You can get a bunch of those addresses taken off, and then you'll only have you have to have at least one address on there because you're going to have to show where you came from, where the information is coming from, and whatever your current address is, whether it's a post office box or an actual physical address. Whatever one address that you leave up there, all the rest of the addresses are taken off, which means that they're not able to correlate a debt that is not tied to the name, social security number, and actual physical address of the social security number holder, which means that you could probably tank a whole bunch of stuff that is based off of a name that's not yours, an address that doesn't belong to you, and a social security number that just so happens to have the wrong information on it, and get a bunch of debt taken off on principle. Now, I just helped you out by a lot, and all you had to do was hang out with me for an extra 30 minutes after I said that I was going to stop talking about real estate. So while Ducky tells me that I like to hear myself talk, y'all just heard about real estate, y'all just heard about investments, y'all just heard about fixing your taxes, all in an hour and 38 minutes. And I just told y'all about big business across the world, as well as big business in the United States that you can do as an individual, where you can actually benefit from yourself as well as everybody else around you. And everybody that you associate with, you can either incorporate them into your business or you can subcontract them into your business where they don't actually have to have assets in your business, but everything that they do for you when you give them money, that's a tax write-off. So all of these things that I try to tell you guys about trying to make sense for yourself so that you don't have to deal with working for somebody else on a regular basis. I just told you how you can clean your credit up. And that's before you start getting secure credit cards. That's before you start get the Clio account. I'm not even an affiliate with them. I just use it. I know it works. You get you a Clio account. You can tag a whole bunch of bank accounts to one location, wire money over for free. It's an ACH transaction, so they're not going to charge you for it. Wire money over for free. You put all your money in one spot. Now you can charge it to one card, but it reports all of your transactions to the 3 major credit bureaus, which boosts your credit up. So if you're trying to boost your credit, if you're trying to better yourself, if you have bad credit or no credit, this is the way to do it. Then when you get your credit up, 650, 675, it's not going to get to 800 off the bat. You got to get rid of your debt and get lines of credit. But it could put you into a good position where you can start getting you some loans. You can start getting you an unsecured credit card, even if it's a $500 unsecured credit card. You get 5 different banks to give you a $500 unsecured credit card, $2,500. But if you have no debt and you got $2,500 worth of credit, you're closer to 700. You're closer to 725. On-time payments, that's all you really need. On-time payments, line of credit with no utilizable credit on there, and a long credit history. Those are the things that you need, and low inquiries, where not too many big businesses are doing hard pulls on your credit score. If you've got these things going for you, you're able to get you a higher level of tax credits. So it is a very good position to follow the podcast, ask questions like these guys ask. But I gotta say, Ducky, you gotta ask better questions though, bro, because when you start off asking me if I'm using a Fuji disposable camera for my stream, you're already walking into my podcast with an asshole behavior, because nobody's using a disposable camera as a webcam. But I am actually using a Fuji webcam, and it just so happens that it impressed me that you hit the nail on the head with the brand that I was utilizing. But that's really the only reason why I entertained your comment. But beyond that, if you're going to tell me something, one of the things I like to do with this podcast, I like to have open forum, open opinions that are non-biased and non-judgmental. I like doing that. So if you've got something intelligent to say, I technically want to entertain it, even if I don't agree with it. So if somebody wants to tell me that what I was saying was wrong, that I didn't know what I was talking about, they want to jump onto the podcast, they want to actually give me information that I didn't already have. Teach us all something all at the same time. By all means, jump on the podcast, say what you got to say. You feel me? But if you're just going to come here and you're going to slap a brother in the face and try to start up a ridiculous argument on the podcast that really doesn't benefit anybody, I'm not the one to entertain that. I want to give you guys knowledge. I want to give you guys information. I want to aid you in your success. I want to make it make sense for you, because if you're able to become wealthy, if you're able to become successful, you'll at least be happy with that. But the rest of you that are looking for better companionships with better partners, you're looking for high value women as higher value men. In order for you to get to become a high value man, you have to boost up your resources. You can't boost up your resources without building up wealth. You can't build up wealth without having the knowledge to build up wealth. So if you were just doing this just so that you can find a better quality woman, I can still help you get there, because it takes us self-building ourselves the way Tesla's still building that Cybertruck for us to become something worth getting, so that when we get somebody of quality, not quantity, quality, that is going to choose us, we are the quality that she needs. Makes sense. Now, if you're not doing that, if you're just trying to get your wealth up so that you can go to a third world country and marry one of them Vietnamese women, hey, you've got plane tickets, you've got you can do whatever you want to do there. Oh, and while we're talking about that, guess what? You've got work visas. So, they say that you can't have more than one wife. You're right. You can marry one and you can get the other one a work visa for your company. Boom. Now you got two. You got one wife working for you and the other wife married to you. Your contract is your contract. The only thing that's not actionable in civil court is sex-driven arrangements. Outside of that, anything that is, and then also the exchange of goods and services for revenue, like that's the only other thing that's not actionable in court. They can say, well, you didn't get what you paid for. You can sue for that, but you charged me too much for it. You unless you defrauded them in some way, shape, or form, you're not really going to be able to get too far with that in civil court. But I mean, if a better lifestyle is what you was offered to be my second wife, and that's a contract that you filled out, then you got the better lifestyle. And it is what it is. You get your 401ks, you get your travel, you get your living expenses, everything is needed, and whatever it is that you do, you do. So if you get a contract for that, there's only so many things that you can contract, and there are frivolous contracts, like there are frivolous lawsuits. But if you guys work out a deal where they're not complaining and they're putting in the work, and you're a satisfied husband of 7 wives, or 1 wife and 7 girlfriends, since the United States only recognizes 1 marriage. Hey, if everybody's okay with everybody, then make it do what it do. But in order for you to be able to afford to take care of 7 women with 7 women's unrealistic expectations, you're going to have to be making 8 to 14 times more than the average man. So in order for you to do that, brother, you're going to need some Nick Cannon money to be swinging around. Some Nick Cannon junk. You're not going to be able to just sit there talking about some, oh, I'm going to do 200, 300,000 a year and I'm going to have 5 wives. That's not going to happen, bro. 100,000, 200,000 a year. That's 1 American woman. You're going to have to be making $1 million a year to have 5 American women. And you might still be broke. So it is what it is. But that's why I tell you guys, when you come to the podcast, if you're going to jump in and we're going to talk about investments like we did today. We talk about setting up corporations. We start talking about big business. We start talking about building yourself up. You got to come to the podcast. You got to really get in there and engage in a positive fashion, because even if you disagree, if you engage in a positive and appropriate fashion, I will take disagreement. I will take a debate on any day of the week. We can compare knowledge. We can compare experiences all day long. I have no problem with that. I can turn a 1-hour podcast into a 4-hour show. I can turn it to, we've done it before. I don't mind that. But what I'm not going to do, though, Ducky, is deal with heckling. I don't do too much of it. I don't entertain too much of it. And that's probably part of the reason why it took me 12 minutes to respond to your questions. But I did want to answer some of your parts of your question, because I did see that, affiliate marketing, I realized, oh my goodness, you're asking me about a product that I'm actually using that I have an affiliate link for down below. So I might as well talk about it. So, and if I don't have the Temu app in there as an affiliate link because they're offering discounts and promos through that link, I'm going to throw it in there right after the show. So if you're on YouTube, you go to the description, at least one of the podcast shows. You definitely see it in the description of the show, in the bio of the podcast. You go to the podcast bio and click that link. It'll take you to Temu and it'll show you all the discounts. And, because I'm an affiliate of it, I get pennies on a dollar, but I use those pennies on a dollar to pay for my overhead. I got to think $1,000 overhead that I pay for every month on this podcast right now. So every penny that I get off of affiliate marketing helps towards the podcast. So when you think about, do I really sit here to talk to you? If I'm paying $1,000 a month to talk to you, no, I'm not doing this because I feel like it. It's a business arrangement. I pay into my business, I invest into my business, and then when my business starts paying back to me, I offset the profits with the expenses. Tax write-off somewhere, right? If I'm spending $12,000 a year, and I was doing 10% of my overhead, 10% of my profits was overhead, that means I can make $120,000 and still be able to have $12,000 worth of debt written off, which means that I only need a small quantity to hit that 20%. I would just need another $12,000 worth of debt to make $120,000 and not have to pay Uncle Sam. So I'm already doing what I'm telling you guys about. I'm already putting into action what I'm telling you guys about. The only difference is that you're watching it and I'm doing it, but I'm telling you that you could be doing it too. We could be doing it together. Matter of fact, somebody asked me about how do you sign up with me. I know we've got a Triple Diamond Platinum package membership on a YouTube platform. I do collaborations with you guys. I do brand promotions and everything like that. If you're paying the cost to be the boss, you hit me up. I start doing promos right away. Boost your brand up if you're paying the cost to be the boss. You feel me? But you also got to look at, everything that we do comes at a price. $1 Million Man said that a long time ago in the WWF, that everybody's got a price. It just matters how much you got to pay. So, if we're all trying to better ourselves for 2025 going forward. We know that the next 25 years, because once they put that executive order out there, it's going to be a 25-year executive order. So the next 25 years until 2050, we're going to have to deal with this. If we're not making it make sense for ourselves, and we're not trying to change things and move things around and make things better for us to be able to say that we done made it, we done finally made it. If it took what they're about to do to this country to give us the ability to say that we done finally made it, then let them do it so that we can make it. And then once we make it, once we get there, once we get to where we're trying to go, and we're able to say, you know what, it might have took me 3/4 of my life to make it here, but now I've got a legacy that I can leave to my family. I got retirement that I can spend the last 25% of my life enjoying life instead of having to work for somebody. Instead of having to work until I die, I can actually stop at a certain age and just live. Part of what we're doing is for, right? Part of the grind is to build up enough money. You're working hard today so that your tomorrow can be greater. You're making your later greater by working harder today. So if you're going to grind today and burn the candle at both ends, instead of burning the candle at both ends with partying hard and excitement and stuff, you want to burn the candle at both ends by grinding twice as much money so that you can invest in twice as many different places so that you get twice as much revenue in the long run. Anything that's going to give you a 20-year long payout where you can potentially live for the next 20 years, if you invest in it now, in 20 years, the profit is going to be so good that you're not even going to realize how you got so big, because it's going to be building up while you're not fucking with it. But as we waste our time on a day-to-day basis, taking our little chump change every time we get a couple $100 extra on our paycheck, we go into the club, and you already know what I'm talking about, because when you spend $15, $20 to get there, $20 to park, $20 to get in, plus the other person that you're paying for, that's $40 to get in. You almost at $100 right now, and then you spending $15, $20 a glass at the club. Each one of y'all going to get at least one. You're paying for everything. You already spent $30 on 2 drinks. You at $125, $130. By the time you walk out of the club, you spent $250, and you was there for 3-4 hours. You got there after midnight because that's when the club was hot, but the club closed at 3, last call at 2:45. Kicking you out the door. You're telling me that that's going to be your weekend, that you're going to spend $300 for 3 hours at the club, when you could have spent $300 on 2 bank accounts and could have got you 5% interest per bank account, where you would have been drawing back a shit ton of money that actually, because you're making less than $10 a year on each bank account, isn't even being reported to the IRS, where you can take your money and move it to other places and nobody even know that you had it. And you're telling me that you're not going to do that, but you're going to go spend time at the club, wasting all this money, probably on a female, just so that you could sleep with her, when she probably would not want your ass if you wasn't buying her all these drinks. And then, might I add, even though it's a $2,000 plane ticket to get to the Philippines, a drink in the Philippines is $2, and the stuff that you can get for $2 in the Philippines, I'm just trying to tell you, priorities are skewed. Why are we not working for longevity? Why are we not working for prosperity? Why are we not putting effort into our ability to have the greatest later of all? Because instead of us putting 75% of our assets into one woman that's going to treat us like shit in America, why don't we put 10% of our assets into 5 women that'll treat us like a king in another country? Make it make sense, fellas. Because if it costs you $500 a month on salary in the Philippines. Now, remember, I was talking about Japan about an hour ago, but I'm telling you right now that about $500 a month on salary for a woman in the Philippines, and you're spending $200 to $300 a night for 3 hours with a woman in America. Think about how much money you're saving to have 3 women on payroll in the Philippines. You're paying $1,500 a month to have 3 women on for 30 days, not 3 hours, for 30 days, as opposed to the 5 engagements that you had with the one woman that you had to pay $300 a night for the 3-hour engagement that you wasn't guaranteed to sleep with her. But after maybe the 3rd time, it's like clicking stamps with your Starbucks card. The 3rd $300 payment that you get, you might get laid. But I mean, you're wasting all that money for what? So I'm going to keep talking to you guys about how we're going to make it make sense. I'm going to talk to you guys about how we can invest in ways that we can make money for us. where we could at least live a stress-free life, because once you start having more money coming in and you got bills, you're trying to find ways to spend money so that you don't have to pay taxes. Now, if the hardest part about your day is where are you going to spend your money so that you don't got to pay taxes on the money that you made, that's a good day to have. That's a good stress to have. I like to have those types of frustrations, but I also like to know that if I've got a tax write-off and pay somebody to do some shit for me, I could pay a homeboy to cut my grass and then write him off as a lawn care specialist. Let me tell you how we got to figure this shit out. But my life is easier now, because instead of me doing everything myself, instead of me grinding on everything myself, I'm actually paying the people around me to do the things that I need done so that I don't have to do it. That when you're building a business, you're paying two different groups of people. The group of people that does what you don't have the ability to do, and the group of people that does the stuff that you don't feel like doing. And you either don't have the ability because you don't have the knowledge and the skill set, or you don't have the ability because you don't have the time. But the people who are doing what you don't want to do are going to be doing the grunt work, and the other people are going to be doing all of the meaningful work. And together, you got a team of people that takes your workload off of you, which now gives you the freedom to use your brain to find other ways to make more money for you. And if you're making more money for you, you're making more money to pay them. So if they work better, they can get promoted to train the people below them so that now they have people doing the work for them. It's a pyramid, but it's not a scheme. It's big business, but a big business doesn't happen overnight. Most businesses don't survive 2 years. So if you are a 3-year-old business or a 5-year-old business, you look better on paper. Even a shell corporation looks better on paper if it's been doing its taxes for the last 5 years, because that business has been around for 5 years. Doesn't matter if it's a big or small business. Well, most businesses fail inside 2 years. So if it takes you 2 years minimum to get stable, that's not turning a profit. That's just getting stable. It's going to take you 3 to 4 years to turn profits that are taxable. So you're looking at a 5-year plan. Easy. 10-year plan with expansion. And that's going to be for each business that you build. And you have to invest time in each one of them. So you need to manage your time. And if you're managing your time, that means that you don't have time for bullshit that's going to cost you money or waste your time where you're not focusing your time on making you money. Which goes back to what I said last week. And it actually goes back to what I told my homeboy once before. I said that you don't associate with associates, because if you're not associating with somebody who is designed to put money in your pocket, whether they're paying you or they're helping you make money some way, shape, or form, you won't fuck with them, because your time is money. It could be big money or it could be small money. It depends on who you are. They say that some of the richest people in the world are too rich to bend over and pick up $100 off the ground because they wasted so much time picking up that $100 bill that they could have made 10 times that just by continuing to walk. You understand? They got some of us that are so broke that we will get hit by a car chasing the $100 in the wind to catch that $100 bill. But they got people that are so rich that the $100 bill would drop on the ground and it's a tax write-off. It's a charitable donation to the homeless guy that picks it up. Your mindset has got to shift. So we've got to put our effort into finding better ways to occupy our time. So if you're going to invest your time on a podcast that's going to give you stuff that when you get off this podcast, you're going to get on Google, you're going to ask the Google lady, you're going to get on Google and you're going to sit there and you're going to look up every fucking thing I told you. And then you're going to be like, damn, not only was he right, there's even more information about it. And when I tell you about, go Google it, Nagano, Japan, expat incentives, foreign domestic business. If you start up a business in Nagano, Japan, they will give you $23,000 US. I think it's like 500 won. I think is what they say that it is, 500 yen or 500 won, something like that. And it's equivalent to right now today it's equivalent to $23,000 US dollars to start up a business and hire 2 Japanese people. You know, and I did that research for the podcast because there are 26 different countries that are offering incentives for anybody, not just Americans, anybody to come to their country and marry their women and aid in repopulating their country. So for some reason, America is the only place that's overpopulated besides Africa who could give 2 shits and would prefer that most people left. Every other country is like, please come here, help us repopulate. We will pay you. So we did a show about it. And because we did a show about it, I found 26 different countries that are offering something. They got some places that are offering $10,000 for you to live there. There are some places that if you stay there for a year, they'll give you $20,000 or $30,000. But those incentives kind of offset because the amount of money that it costs to live there, by the time you qualify to get paid that money, they're just paying you back for the first year that you stayed there. But that technically gives you 1 year free, either way it goes. They got so many other places that like Korea and areas of Japan and China, where they are paying for the child care, all of the child care, or 80% of the child care, where in either sense, like instead of like in America, childbirth is like 20 grand or whatever, over there, childbirth is $5 grand. The difference, you pay $500. What? For a complication, not for a natural. The natural is free. The complication is $500. You spent more than that in a nightclub. You're telling me that you could drop three children in a third world country for the same price that you spent in a nightclub this past month? And they're going to pay for these kids all the way to their 18 years of age. Look now, you have a family of 5 where you're spending $1,400, $1,500 a month in a third world country. You're spending $1,500 a month for a middle class lifestyle that costs you $6,500 a month in the United States for one person. I'm just trying to tell you, there's better ways to go. We just got to look for them, because nobody would have thought we got so much closed-mindedness. I got a show coming up that's about to tell you what the buyers markets are. There are quite a few buyers markets in United States right now, even though it is still primarily a seller's market across the United States. There are a few areas that are buyers markets in the United States right now. And nobody gives a shit about the fact that it's a buyer's market in another country. You got other countries where you can do 25-year-long leases where you can't buy land in that country unless you're a C corporation. Big business can buy land, but you personally can't buy land. You personally can do a 25-year-long lease or 50-year-long lease, which is basically your whole life that you're renting this property, but you never own shit. But your C corporation can own shit. Your C corporation through the United Nations, through the embassy that you go there with, you can go out there and you can set up some stuff. You got to fill out some paperwork. You got to talk to all the right people, which is why traveling out there is a business expense. And then you start picking up stuff under your LLC, pick up stuff under your C corporation. All of the stuff that I be telling y'all about, this information has always been there. And a lot of the stuff that I knew about before I started this podcast, but a lot of the stuff I knew about because I started this podcast. A lot of the information that I have today, I got in the last 6 months because I'm doing research for this podcast. And I'm just sharing information with y'all. So now y'all don't even have to do the research about it. All y'all got to do, instead of y'all asking the Google lady, come ask Xander. Hey, Xander, what do you know about this? And if I don't know anything about it, I'll do a show about it. And then when I do a show about it, I'm going to have some knowledge about it. I'm going to tell you as much as I can find about it. And if I can do some in-depth digging, if I can find a specialist that knows some shit about it that'll come to the show, I'll bring somebody to the show that'll tell you more about it than I know about it. But one way, shape, or form, when we watch this podcast, we're going to be watching a podcast of somebody that's going to enlighten you. We're not just going to sit here and tell fart jokes. We're not going to sit here and just talk about, bullshit. We're not just going to sit here and complain about how the country sucks and how the country needs to change without ever talking about what needs to be done to change. First person accountability. You cannot change your environment until you change yourself. You cannot change the people around you, but you can change the people that you fuck with. So if you're not going to have a better life because you're not going to change the people around you that's making your life bad, you're not going to change the decisions that you make that's making your life bad, you're not going to change the situation that you're in by changing the key components that makes your situation suck, then you're always going to live the way you're living. The fact is that it is the way it is because you don't have the motivation to do better. It is what you make it. And if you don't like the way it is, there's a metaphorical term that is called burn it all down and build it up in your image. Destroy what is there and then rebuild it in your image. The way the U.S. destroyed Afghanistan and then spent $13 million a week rebuilding it the way they wanted it. This is a capitalist model. If you don't like what's going on around you, you got to start picking and choosing what you're going to keep and what you're going to get rid of. Because you cannot continue living the way you're living and then think that all of a sudden your life is going to change into something different. If you don't change the things that needs to be changed in yourself, you are not going to end up in a better position. So if all you need is a clue, if all you need is a hint, and you come to a live podcast like this one, and the clues and the hints are happening here, and you take the information from this podcast, and then you use it in other places, then you can actually follow up. Instead of paying for some bullshit ass seminar at a fucking hotel where they're never going to give you the fucking information that you need, you will actually come here and get the information that you need. And you won't just get the information off the title of the podcast for the day. You'll actually get information for other shit, because this show doesn't just talk about that. This show talks about this, that, and everything in between. So if something else comes up, I will derail the topic and start talking about something else that still you need to know. Because we're going to talk about how shit ain't right and what we can do to fix it. First person accountability. Why do we allow things to happen to us that negatively impact us when we should be putting a stop to that shit? First person accountability. And then how do we build ourselves up? First person accountability. And I'm always coming from a uniform perspective. I even did a whole show with Mr. Pibbs about morals and ethics from a uniform perspective where we had to really debate. Because I don't give a shit about right or wrong. What I care about is that is it balanced? Is it uniform? Is a situation going to be the same no matter what variables are changed? If the outcome is supposed to be the same outcome, if the expectation is supposed to be the same expectations, then no matter who's there, it's supposed to be the same. Which means that uniformly speaking, that it doesn't matter if it's Donald Trump or if it's me. Big business is big business. If this man is able to pay a prostitute with big business money and not go to jail for it, I should be able to do the same shit. The only thing that's going to stop me from doing it, I don't have a big business. So what do I got to do? Build a big business. So uniformity. So we're not saying, oh, well, the white man's keeping us down or the government is oppressing us or this, that. No. You don't give a shit about us. Fact is, rich people stay rich because rich people keep their money in their pocket. The rest of us stay poor because we spend our money in useless situations. That does not benefit us at all. Meaningless short-term entertainment. Whereas this podcast you've been watching for the last 2 hours, if you guys just signed in a little after we started, you've been watching this podcast for free. All the information that you got more knowledge from me on this podcast than what you got from your college education. And it's free. Unless you want to pay $3 for the base membership and get more in-depth situations, more in-depth information. The membership, the $3 a month for the membership for the lowest tier membership of this podcast is cheaper than a CPA at $3.50 an hour. Look, the $50 a month membership for this podcast is cheaper than the $3.50 an hour for a CPA. So at the end of the day, if you're gonna make time, you're gonna make time make money for you. So you want to get knowledge with that time. You want to get information that you can utilize, that you can reinforce on. You want to be able to find other ways to think outside of the box. Do not just compartmentalize yourself where you are stuck in this no-no zone where success is a no-no. You want to be able to find a way to migrate out of where you was, because just like I said before a couple months ago, is that if you are the best person in your network, you need a better network. Because if you're the cream of the crop, if you're the best of your group, you are the biggest fish in that small pond. You need to be relocated to a bigger pond. You cannot say that you are going to be the best you that you could possibly be in your life if you are not competing with people better than you. When you think about anime characters like Goku, 0 power when he was born, strongest man in the universe when he was done. Why? Because he always fought people stronger than him. You must have people that are better than you in your network, not just so that you can borrow money from them, so that you can get advice from them, so that you can get opportunities from them. So that you have to be an asset to them too. But If you find people that are better than you can find out how they got to where they are so that you can take some of their information and incorporate it into yourself so that you can be better than what you was before you met them. But you should never be in a situation where you are the best person in your group. Everybody's coming to you for a handout. You're only able to expel as much resources as you can make for yourself, but they're not making money for you. They're just coming to you for help. You are not Jesus, and you are not going to be able to help 40 people with 2 loaves of bread and a fish. It's not going to work. You are going to have to find another way. So instead of you spreading yourself too thin and spreading your resources too thin and taking care of a whole neighborhood of people that you can't afford to take care of yourself, you want to have you a little bit of a balance. You can have some people that you mentor. You can mentor across and mentor down. You got people that you can teach to do shit a certain way, because that's going to also benefit you, because the consequences of stupid people's actions around you negatively impact you. The consequences of your actions negatively impact you. And the consequences of you playing Captain Save-A-Ho for somebody negatively impacts you and your resources in all 3 scenarios. So if you hold people accountable for the stupid shit that they do, well, you're not going to fuck with them if they keep doing stupid shit. You're not going to have stupid shit around you. You're not going to have collateral damage. You're not going to have to play Captain Save. And if you're mentoring down, you're teaching the people that's up under you how to not make the mistakes that you made. Now you are sharing the information, the apprenticeship that is only in the good old boys club, where the rich teach the next generation how to stay rich before they're old enough to know what the fuck's going on. We find out when we're in our 40s what the fuck we should have knew when we was 18, when we was 16. We find it out in our 40s, and we don't tell nobody. We sell the idea in a book. But if we was able to tell our kids, tell our neighbors' kids, tell our kids' friends, somebody's gonna listen. Tell the next generation, because that's the whole reason why our Gen Zs are so fucked up in the head right now, because they so busy watching us watch the last generation with sex, drugs, and alcohol, that the next generation, the 18 to 25-year-olds right now, think that sex, drugs, and alcohol is the thing. It's not. Being self-sustainable is a thing. Having financial freedom is a thing. But nobody is teaching anybody how to do that. And we can't blame it on the fact that we didn't have fathers growing up. Because even as grown-ass men, we're not teaching each other. We're not teaching the last generation or the next generation. So the foundation of this podcast, teach folks. We're going to talk about some shit. We're going to talk about chaos. We're going to talk about gender inequalities, social inequalities, but we're also going to talk about business and politics and finance and technologies. I was just talking to you guys about AIs not too long ago and about how AIs were taking over the workforce. I was just telling y'all in April and May about how they were doing the AI test pilots, and it was about to replace all of the truckers with automated trucks. Guess what? I forgot the name of the company, starts with a V. It's like Value Line or something like that. They have automated trucks now. So 18-wheelers with no drivers in it. Just talking about it today on the news. 18-wheelers with no drivers in it. So those truckers that was getting paid 75 cents a mile a minute, fired. 2 reasons. 1, they don't want to pay the workers. And 2, a truck with no driver asks no questions. So now you can ship shit that nobody knows what's in the back of the truck because nobody's asking questions. The truck's not going to get pulled over. There isn't a driver. Police can't open the back because there is nobody on the truck. The truck won't stop. Do you see how that? So you could literally start trafficking stuff in the back of this 18-wheeler that is probably not legal because this value truck does not have a driver. So we already know that, AIs was supposed to be taking over the workforce. They started replacing workers in the restaurants. They started Amazon, 750,000 robots. So, a lot of people are losing their jobs at Amazon. Talking about they're just supposed to help us. No, you're helping them because they're test piloting the AIs working alongside you so that the AIs can self-learn on how to replace you. Then when they fire you, they will have robots at $3.50 an hour doing what you're getting paid $35 an hour to do. They fire you. They just made $23, 23 hours worth of pay as a profit. Training your replacement. Y'all heard that saying a long time ago, training your replacement. Now they're replacing them in the kitchen in the restaurants. Now they might have one worker in the restaurant and all the rest of the workers are AIs. Next thing you know, they're going to be replacing the servers. They already got kiosks. They replaced the cashiers. So you're going to start seeing that if you don't have an IT degree and computer technology degree, where you have experience with software and hardware, that you're not going to be able to find a job, because all of the mediocre blue collar work is going to be replaced by androids. Right now, even in construction, they have man-made, or not man-made because everything's man-made, but man-controlled construction workers, AI construction workers, where you use a remote control, just like an Xbox or whatever, to control this machine to do stuff that you don't want to do on a construction site. Now they're going to evolve that into some of Elon Musk's AIs and Digitech AIs, and they're going to start having construction workers out there that are 100% machine, self-learning machines. You got Soul Machine that's got a complete hologram. You've seen commercials that were run by a hologram, where when you start taking software from one component and put it with hardware from another component and make a whole living entity. You think they put that shit in the movies because it was cool? Music and television was always designed to administer information across a wide range of people in a short period of time. Movies is especially designed to precondition you to accept shit long before it happens. Resident Evil, COVID-19. Listen now, iRobots, everything that's happening right now with automated systems. Everything that's happening. It was in a movie long before it happened. James Bond with the cell phone watch. That came out 60 years before it was a thing. Star Trek with the communicator. Now they got Neuralinks going on. Now I'm waiting to see the transporter. It's been sold. The transporter should have been done already. They should have had a human replicator already. They already got cloning. So you have to understand that just because you might have seen it on TV, oh, that's not real. It's only on TV. No, bro. Somebody thought about that, started putting it into action, and then somebody said, this will make a great movie. In that order. Nobody thought, oh, we should put this in a movie, and then somebody say, oh, that was a great movie. We should make that. It's the other way around, bro. It's the other way around. So when we're looking at how life is foreshadowed, and we're looking at it, we're paying for the Netflix subscription, we're laughing, we're joking, we're having a good time, we're Netflix and chilling, we're wasting our times, we're not doing anything productive with our lives. And then when the whole country changes, oh man, what happened? Yo ass wasn't paying attention. That's what the fuck happened. Because I told y'all 3 months ago. I told y'all 3 months ago that everything that's happening right now was going to happen. I told you last month that everything they're talking about going into effect next year is guaranteed to happen. Some people thought, oh yeah, the woman was going to get it. Fuck out of here. I don't know why. What made you think that when that woman got up on the stage talking about something in a press conference that she can't control her liquor, but she want to be president? If I had Hennessy in this Disney cup, I would still be able to do a podcast. But you can't tell me that if my eyes was bloodshot red in this press conference that you're going to tell me that I make a great president. You had one fan on the show just now tell me that because I didn't respond to his idiotic comment so quickly that all of a sudden I'm just talking just for the sake of talking. So could you imagine if I'm trying to run for president and not only do I not have anything enlightening to say, but I ain't even sober today and I knew that I was going to be here? Come on now. You self-sabotaging yourself. Again, this is one of the things that we say about our success. Everything first-person accountability. One of the things that we have a big problem in the United States that not too many people are able to admit to is that first-person accountability requires us to accept the fact that even if somebody else's choices negatively impacted us, we ourselves made enough negative choices to lead us to be in the situation where somebody else's fucked up decision is going to negatively impact us. You who have the ability to do online banking, to be able to make and receive transactions using your cell phone or your laptop, decides to go to the bank and do it in person and then get involved in a bank robbery. The bank robbery's dumbass deciding to rob the bank is the reason why the bank is getting robbed. Your dumbass not doing a transaction over your cell phone and going to do it in person at the branch is the reason why you're involved in the bank robbery, because the bank would have got robbed either way. You just wouldn't have been there if you would have made a different choice. So blaming it on somebody else is not the way to go. You have to, in every bad relationship, in every terminated job, in every fucked up thing that has ever happened to you in your life, you have to take accountability for what you did or did not do in that situation, which is why you are in that situation. You got a flat because you don't rotate your tires. You don't change your tires out on a regular basis. You don't check your tires. You got a blowout. You had a nail in a tire for a quarter mile, 2 miles, 10 miles, 5 days, 15 days. Didn't give a shit. Slow leak, just kept topping it off with air. Eventually, tire is going to blow. You could have did something about it beforehand. Now, you're riding around with no spare because you did not take the time to replace one, but you knew you needed one because the last time you changed the tire, you had no extra spare. This is a sequence of events. Final Destination, fantastic movie, fantastic franchise. The scariest part about Final Destination was not the fact that people died. Do you know what the scariest part about Final Destination was? That a series of stupid ass decisions done by a series of stupid people in the same reasonable proximity of the fucked up shit that happened is the reason why somebody died. Where your indirect action negatively impacted somebody else's indirect action, where all of these actions are stupid as fuck, that leads to somebody else dying. People are going to say, oh, no, that plot was about death being out to get them. No. If you go back and rewatch it, it's no longer, some of them might be on Netflix, but most of them got taken off of Netflix. They put up something different because they can only hold so much on their series. But the wherever you find it, whether you find it on YouTube Premium or Amazon Prime or Hulu Plus, wherever you find it at, you go rewatch Final Destination. Just rewatch it. And if you got to pause it after the death scene and then rewind it to when the stuff that happened before the person got killed so that you're not taken back by the fact that the person actually died, but you really want to watch what the fuck happened that led up to them actually getting killed, and you start looking at it, you're going to be looking at like, wow, the person that died on the roller coaster, like the person that died on the roller coaster a few weeks ago. Poor maintenance on the roller coaster ride. Bolt came loose. The thing went across the tracks. Nobody tried to stop the train car. Rolls off the tracks. Everybody dies. Now, had they did proper maintenance on it, had they checked it, probably wouldn't have had that happen. But that will require them to diligently check every fucking bolt on a ride before they start the ride for the day. Stop the rides halfway through, double check for maintenance, make sure there's no screws loose. Vibrations. You can't tell me that an external bolt is not going to vibrate itself off. We've all done that before. But they didn't. That woman that was flew off of her ride, they're telling me that I think it was in Texas. There was a high roller coaster. They went up, the roller coaster came down, lady come flying out the roller coaster. I was sitting here thinking about, man, maybe I should do a show about that, but I really couldn't do a show about that because it's fucked up that it happened, but it was a series of failed mistakes. Because why is she on the roller coaster? Her safety harness is not locking, and she's sitting down. I would be standing up like, bro, this ain't working. They can't launch the ride while you're standing up. I would get up like, this ain't working. Get off. Like, I'll catch the next one. That seat's out of order. But you hung in there. You're like, oh, it's going to be all right. I can just hold it. I can just hold it here. I don't do roller coasters. I got a small frame. If I do this, I can slide straight through the safety railing. I'm not getting on there. I don't give a fuck. Yeah, it's fun. It was fun when I was a kid. But I had to hold it like this, because if I didn't hold it like this, I would slide through. So putting your arms up actually locks you into place. But no, why am I going to risk my life? If I want thrill, I'll get pulled over. If I want excitement, get a traffic ticket. Run a toll. You want to really get excited? You want to really like have an adventure? Go get a loan. Get approved for a loan. That's an adventure. Shit. You really want to have a life-threatening experience? You want to really have a life-threatening experience? I'd tell you exactly what you do. Go to Border Patrol and not show them your ID. That's exciting. They're going to be sitting there contemplating whether or not they're going to shoot you today. You really want to test fate. But if you're just going to live a normal, mundane life where you're not getting on a fucking roller coaster, because one, that's a waste of time and it's a waste of money. That's two things. And three, Final Destination, like I said, series of fucked up ass shit that happens because other people didn't do what the fuck they were supposed to do, and you did stupid shit or failed to do the right shit and ended up in a fucked up ass situation that you couldn't get yourself out of. So, with that being said, I strongly encourage you guys, hang out on the podcast every night of the week, 9 Eastern, 8 Central, 5 Pacific, whatever we got going on. We got different topics every day of the week. We do have themed topics towards the weekend, but we still talk about different stuff on the weekends, different areas of social interaction. So I strongly encourage you guys to dive in, see what's going on, see what you got to say. Give us some comments, even in the comment section during the show right now, or after the comment section in the community chat. Follow us, subscribe, share the content with somebody that you know that'll need it, somebody that you think that'll disagree with it. I don't mind. I love debates. They want to talk shit. They want to counteract the information that I put on a podcast today. They got to watch a 3-hour podcast right now, 2 hours, 26 minutes long, so that they can have something to argue against. By all means, right now, while we have a low quantity of comments, I respond to 100% of the comments that are not just hate speech. Because telling me I'm wrong, I'm okay with it. Telling me I'm stupid just for the sake of saying, oh, you're a dumbass. Yeah, I'm not going to respond to that because you're not actually proving a point. You tell me why you think I'm wrong. You tell me why you don't agree with what I got to say. I don't care. You can call me a racist bigot. I don't care. If you can put some evidence on the table that defines why you think that, I'll have a whole debate about why you think I'm a racist bigot. But just calling me a racist bigot, yeah. I got like 2 black friends. You can't tell me that. You know, my dogs are minorities. I got one laying right next to me that's just as dark as T-Pain. I mean, what's going on? So I'm going to wrap it up for this afternoon. I really appreciate you guys. I hung out for the last hour and 25 minutes because I watched y'all while y'all was diving in. I was about to wrap the show up and walk out when y'all walked in, but I said, no, I'm going to show these guys some respect. I'm going to make sure I give them some detailed information. I want y'all guys to hit the subscription button if you haven't already done it yet. Follow us. Add to the tribe that we're going to have. And then come back and see us again tomorrow. Come back and see us again later this week because we're always going to have something to talk about. We're always going to have something. You're going to enjoy it. So, first of all, I'm going to go ahead and sign out of TikTok before I sign out of YouTube and Twitch. So, if YouTube and Twitch, y'all hang out for a couple minutes. TikTok, ladies, I'm always going to tell y'all every day of the week that as long as the shit doesn't make sense, that you need to make it make sense. So, ladies, make it make sense. And for the rest of you guys that are on Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, I really appreciate you guys for making us who we are and showing us the support that y'all show us. It definitely gives me the ability to keep coming back and making it do what it do. So, I really want to give you guys a great thank you. Sometimes across the bottom of the screen, I give y'all a little special thanks that I roll through. And I like to show special thanks to the other. We got like 5 different states that show us love right now. Actually 7 different of the top 7 states that we got going on, which is like Texas, California, Florida, New York, Illinois, Pennsylvania, and Georgia are like the top 6 states in the United States that's showing us love. We keep getting a lot of fans from y'all. I really appreciate that. But we also have a large quantity of countries that I wanted to throw out on the map too, because outside of Romania, we got Romania. I got to put them up there first. Russia, Vietnam, United Kingdom, India, Germany, Australia, South Africa, Mexico, Canada, Indonesia, and the Philippines. We also have a couple of other countries that we're not allowed to name because they're warring right now, but they show us love as well. So we're broadcasting worldwide, and we greatly appreciate y'all as y'all come in and show us love. So I wanted to give you guys a special thanks real quick before I signed off. And with that being said, I really appreciate y'all hanging out till the last hour, to the bottom of the ninth, the 12th hour. Greatly appreciate you guys. And I want to just say, I am Xander with This and That, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And y'all have a great night.